Hi, everybody. Welcome. November 1st, 2023. This is level 1, lesson 11, even though some of the lessons might be slightly mislabeled in both the YouTube and the now Vimeo showcase, that it might be listed as lesson 12. But the main point is the information that we're going over is energetic anatomy and the sun. So again, last week I did the sun's senses and the human endocannabinoid system and the commonalities between those two things, and some aspects of signaling that are not effective in both the physical human body due to malnutrition and also humans connecting with the sun due to genetic modification. But I went gloriously back into my recorded lesson from 10 years ago about energetic anatomy and the sun level 1. And let's just do the pristine. I can't, though. I'm going to rant. I'm going to rant. So what am I going to rant about? I'm going to rant about the sun simulator and the levels of light that are not pristine, the non-pristine cognitive environment in terms of what you're doing when you have this rapport with the sun is divine co-creation. Okay, so welcome. And for anyone who watches these videos out of sequence and doesn't know who I am or what I'm doing, I'm walking on a treadmill down here, and my name is Aurora, and I'm a galactic walking. So for many years, as I came here in 2001, sun gazing has been a very, very normal part of my way of sustaining myself, but not the only way for me to sustain myself. The first couple of weeks that I was here in 2001, I tried to be sustained entirely by emanations like optical light and radiation from the sun. And I was like, this doesn't feel right. Not like what I was used to. I was very, very much unprepared for this type of a body. That I have a body that is very similar to your body, even though I have now at this point upgraded and sculpted and reshaped it on a genetic level with my flying rainbow lasagna DNA dance. And so I did a lot of that in order to heal from neurological damage, what would have killed the previous occupant of this body. Or let's say, here's a better way of saying it. What did kill the previous occupant of this body, and what would have made my body, which now I call my body, not just this body, uninhabitable if I had not done major upgrades. And also, I received a lot of help and assistance from God, the divine presence, and the sun and the stars in just keeping this body viable as a container so that I could even do the upgrades and rectifications that needed to happen. Just seeing what's going on over there because Cheeky's looking at something. She's getting into something. So point being, I started out with a body that is very similar in formation and recipe and genetic behavior to what you are presently inhabiting in your own body. And then have been able to do these different things to bring my body into a sense of cultivation and greater rapport with the sun, making it accessible to you as well. That there are things that were genetic blockades. Where's my lasagna? Grab it. Genetic blockades that made it very difficult for you as an innate light eater. So big news is that you in a human body are innately a light eater, just as I am. And that flying rainbow lasagna is the way to be able to re-access that innate ability or definition of self. And the more that I talk about this perspective today, the more that it should just become evident. I still jump once per class to be able to grab my sculptures. So this is the time vortex, your chakras, the shape of time as it surrounds and interpenetrates your body, and it's a force field of possibilities and probabilities. This force field, flat out, is emanated from the sun. So this is a major portion of your own anatomy that you encompass and embody, and at the same time, it is an emanation from the sun. So literally everything that you have, from the physical cellular aspects that are the ingredients of what you are, being a container for consciousness in the physical realm, into your neurological signaling and your pure consciousness, the ephemeral and less tangible levels of self, all of that comes from, and I call it the sun, but it's really the stars as well, the entire stellar network. Those are your origins as pure consciousness and as pure energy, and those are also, and as light or information or data presence, and those are also your origins as elements like atoms and the basic building blocks of matter all comes from the sun and the stars. And it's not only just like it came to you from thousands of years ago and like, here's some stuff and now it's yours. You also have a real-time rapport with the sun. So you have a conscious, constant bridge between yourself as consciousness embodied as Charlie or Joyce or Pedro, or whatever, insert your name here, and the sun that you see as an abstract presence. So I say this all the time. I say, spoiler alert, and the sun in the sky there, it's you, and you become the sun. It's like, spoiler alert, that's still you. It was you, it remains you. It is you even while you are this individuated being that you are here. And also it is you, linear time language breaks down, but as you're evolving, you regain or remember or reconnect with self-state. And so, I mean, when I think about it in those terms, of huge weight is relieved because I know myself and I know my values. And I'm like, oh, I care about myself. I care about myself, just like I care about my elbow. I'm like, I don't want anything bad to happen to my elbow. So I'm going to make sure that good things happen to me. That I'm like, wait a second, do I have something on my elbow? That's so funny. Like whatever, an insect bite or something. I didn't know that I had something on my elbow. I better take care of it later. That I care about me, all of my body parts, and all of my things that sustain me in this world. And similarly, the sun and the entire stellar network cares about you as an individual and consciousness. And that, because I know that this is, again, so this class, I talk about things that are not necessarily the pristine nature of reality, but in the face of many of these systemic iniquities and personal assaults on your being that have probably you've experienced, that have gotten to be very intense over the past several years, you might have gone into abandonment and wondered, like, is there anybody up there and does anybody care? And what about the sun? And isn't the sun supposed to take care of all this type of stuff? And the answer is yes. So please look at it and embody the truth that that is actually you. You are a piece of that larger sun. You are literally a piece of that world of pure light. And that world of pure light is in such a level of abstraction that it might be incomprehensible to a person that has a limited human neurology, like how many neural connections are in your brain, and then also a limited cultural viewpoint. So I can definitely help you with expanding your limited cultural viewpoint. And then in terms of the limited human neurology, here's what I do. I access the sun and the stars as my processing power. So I am also in a body that has a certain number of human neural connections. And also some of them are like not even working right the way that they're supposed to be. How do I do stuff? And the answer is I store my stuff in the cloud. I did the cloud before the cloud was the cloud. So now they call this the cloud, like storage, like the non-local storage for all of your notes and photos and other things you want to save, like from your iPhone, store it in the iCloud, whatever. You pay $2.99 a month to be able to do that. If you lose your phone, no problem, because you stored everything in the cloud, right? So my neurology is very similar to that. Before I had an analogy such as the cloud to share with people in that way, what I was able to say is that my physical body here, there's limitations in terms of brain damage. And also, so what I use is like my mouth and my fingers. It's like the monitor and the keyboard. I'm using these levels of interface to be able to speak to the world here, and I have a physical presence here, but I don't do a lot of my high level calculations in my body, even though some of it I do in terms of cell-to-cell communication, because even if your neurology of your brain is damaged, you still have all of the membranes of your body to be able to do this complex cross-cellular communication. But I do a lot of my calculation using the sun and the stars through non-locality. And so that's one of the things I want to teach you about today. It's a little bit new. It's a new way of saying things that I said in the lesson from 10 years ago. P.S. Access the lesson from 10 years ago. If you're returning students or if you're totally new, It's worth it to delve because it's still totally relevant to today's life experience, not worthy of just a total, upgrade rant, but all of that stuff. It's so relaxing to me when I go over those notes of that era, because I dive back into my mind of what it was like to perceive and share my knowledge at that time. And I'm like, oh, it was a much simpler time. Oh, like, just walk down memory lane, like, oh, the good old days. There were fewer chemtrails then, and lots of less poop crap all in the world. I'm being a little silly because you can tell, like, I go into this lightheartedness when, like, it's actually like very emotionally distressing. So yes, not the idiot's bliss, but the warrior's jokingness of things that are not exactly perfect. But non-locality, as it relates to what I was teaching about 10 years ago. Hold on, I have my notes written right here. Okay. Because I tell people all the time about when I do work, when I do healing work, when I do crystal work and other things like that, I have a gift of non-locality. And that is a very big part of what Flying Rainbow Lasagna is. And we'll talk about lasagnaing with the sun and the stars as having one singularity point that is inside of you, and then embodying the truth of that same singularity that also resides at the center of the sun. And that same center of the sun is at the top of your own neurology. It's right inside of your own skull. So big takeaway, the sun appears external and it appears other than you, but it is actually self-state, and it is actually an external reflection of something that is internal to you. So let me just I'm squinting and scrolling in class, guys, even though I always try not to do that, not to make funny faces, take your time, but we're going to do it just to make sure that I have a good picture for me to share from for today. Sorry to be squinting and scrolling for you guys. Hold on a minute here. Let's get this one over here, because this is it's, of course, it's all the way at the end of my list. Oh, hold on, and I gotta admit someone to the meeting. Oh, I have a lot of squinting and scrolling to do here. I'm sure that it was there we go. Okay, so wait, make sure that this is on my screen. Admit someone to the movie. There we go. Okay, so wait, this has got to go down here. This has got to go bye-bye over here. And now this person comes into the meeting. And now I share this picture with you. All right, so let's start off with basics. Oh, let me just give you privacy over here. Basics, and then give me the annotation. Annotation, yes. Basics of anatomy. So there is this place right at the center of your skull. It is where your top of your neck meets the base of your brain. So you could imagine, like, you have your vertebrae that go all the way up your spine over here from your pelvis. Then here you have your neck. And then you have, the curved bone of your skull that goes kind of like this. And this connection point is a very critical area of both your physical anatomy and your non-physical or purely energetic anatomy. It is a crossing over point between both of those aspects of self. Your physical anatomy, I've been calling your somatic, cellular anatomy. And then all of this other stuff that I'm scribbling upon, this is your light body, your time body, your body of abstraction, of pure possibilities and probabilities. And this crossing point is where you have a sun, a star inside of yourself. So this, everything that we're talking about is about connecting with really that sun and star that is inside of yourself, even while at the same time you have this external sun that these are like a child's drawing, but you get the impression, the idea of what optically looks like something that is external from you and what optically looks like it is emanating, beams of visible light. It is doing that. It is visibly emitting light, but it is non-visibly emitting time and timelines. That's what all of this stuff is over here. The sun is emitting the possibilities of your life. There's a very, very old, silly joke that basically this guy who is blind and is reading matzah as if it is braille. And he says, who writes this shit? That's the joke that I always go to internally when I think about like, who writes this stuff? When you're looking at the actual, I'm sorry that I go into silly jokes, my associative mind. Who writes these possibilities? If you are Groundhog's Daying through these various different, timelines, some of which are comfortable, some of which are uncomfortable, where do they come from? Who writes this? Who is the author of this? I mean, the real answer is that God, the divine presence, is the author of this. And then the also truthful, accurate answer is that the sun, and to a lesser extent, the other stars, write this stuff. Why am I always focusing on the sun? Because the sun is your most local broadcaster of highest dimensional cosmic consciousness, pure abstraction. Consciousness itself is a miracle and a phenomenon that must be loved and protected and fostered into being. And also because you are the biological art projects and consciousness art projects and sensory apparatuses, that's not the right word, of the sun. That this particular sun star has a very particular relationship to you. I don't want to say ownership because this has the wrong connotation, but a sense of proprietary being. Like imagine the sun being like, yep, those are my girls, those are my boys, that's my stuff. That's my stuff down there in a very positive way, because it is self-state. Again, sending out aspects of self to be consciousness feelers in a reality that you yourself are creating. I just can't emphasize this enough as you are on this journey of emanating from the source, having life experiences, and then reuniting with the source, but from a new, more expanded perspective, and having gained more information and grown more light, and also grown more of the structural coherence and integrity in your self state through your journeys, because your journeys mean something. Like, mommy, daddy, why am I here? What is the existential meaning of life? Son or daughter, you are here in order to accrete more light, grow more wisdom, learn more stuff, and grow, again, more of the like, I stand up for my posture, the muscles that hold you up as a soul, your posture, learning who you are and whom you are not. And whom you are and whom you are not is far beyond definitions of like, this is my dress, or this is my hair, or this is my house, or these are my shoes, or my car, or anything like that. We're talking about the abstract definition of who you are as consciousness, as a soul, as a decision maker. Like, what type of decisions do you make in life? If you are faced with the choice between X and Y, which thing do you choose and why? These are character-based definitions of who you are. So my dress is not the same as my character. My house is not the same as my character. My soul is my character. And in life, people are often put into these circumstances that really are what you would say is a test of character, or an opportunity to be able to explore or display behaviorally who you really are. Sometimes it's Kobayashi Maru, like an unwinnable situation. Who are you in an unwinnable situation? Or who are you when the SHIT hits the fan? Who are you in a crisis? But also, who are you when there are fun, happy, positive options to choose from? Like, what flavor of ice cream would you like out of a real ice cream store? Or what flavor of positive life experience would you like out of the emanations factory of the world? And what I just showed you with this picture of your chakras, that's the emanations factory of the world. So it's not just a strictly deterministic world. In a strictly deterministic world, it says, this is the recipe, or this is the menu, this is what you got on your plate, these are the only options that you have. But really what I'm teaching about in this particular segment of this class is about your capacity to be in a rapport and in a beautiful, positive, divine, exalted, reciprocal, loving relationship with the sun, and generate new stuff. How does new stuff get generated? It gets generated through the action of sun gazing. So there was a time before humanity was genetically degraded and cut off from connection with the sun. Not only did we follow the musical score of the cosmos perfectly, playing all of the perfect notes and never hitting the membrane of death, and also we collaborated or jammed and improvised with the sun and the stars so beautifully and so perfectly that we created and generated and manifested, I like to say, embroidered into being an even greater level of beauty and complexity than is what we were presented with. Go over that again. the basic substrates of truthfulness, the basic, let's say, structure of the music that you're going to be playing is there. We can do it. I can actually play this if you want me to. I have it here. We got to change the sound. Turn on my piano. Basic structure. That's, I hope it's not too loud for you. The wonderful music that the sun is playing, just like a basic chord. But then you might be like, well, that basic chord sounds great, but wait, I'm going to do a little bit of improving while that basic chord is going on. I'm going to do. You embroider and add greater levels of complexity and beauty to the basic time structures of what is already there, and that's part of this rapport. That's part of what sun gazing is. So I know I shared this with you like in a very fragmented way. When I first came here, I expected to be a sun gazer. I did not expect to be in the body that is literally like a combustion engine type of body. And I had to learn like, oh, like this is what a combustion engine body is like. Where's my smoothie? Here's food. In a combustion engine, you have to put like coconut milk and dates and fruits and stuff. Like food goes in here, and then when it goes inside, then it makes your muscles go like do like a steam engine, right? All of that, although it is necessary, and I've done that for about 20 years, and you guys I'm sure have done it for many decades as well, it's not the original purpose. It's a repurposing of your whole entire biological and cellular system. You are innately a light eater. And the journey to self-remembrance is the journey of reclaiming or reestablishing yourself in that truthful identity. Light eating is also not just radiation eating. As humans recognize something like X-ray radiation or high energy particles named neutrinos, and you just think like they're all just like random and interchangeable. Just eat a bowl of neutrinos and that will sustain you. No, when I'm talking about being a light eater, I'm really talking about eating a constant flow of energy and information and orderly awareness that comes into your mind, into your insight through this tendril of attention that is called your attenuos, your tendril that you reach out with. And it is in orderly curriculum. Just like in this class, I intended to create an orderly curriculum in order to present in a linear way a series of truthfulnesses that bring you to a culmination and a truthful conclusion. So now what I want to talk about is the interplay between your indigo brow chakra and your violet crown chakra right up here, because this has everything to do with the vulnerabilities of Christhood, Christ network itself. So I talk about being connected to the Christ consciousness. This is a non-denominational cross for me, in that I am not affiliated with a particular church on planet Earth that is named Church of Christianity, but that I am affiliated with a larger metacognitive time being that is known as Christ consciousness that resides within each one of us, and that the insight that you have, your mind's eye, which is very close to and parallel to and analogous to that interplay of where your spine meets your head and where your brow meets your crown, but not an exact analogy. Symbolic analogy, but not exact analogy. Because we're going to get into all sorts of things, and I didn't finish my sentence, but what if you lose your pineal gland? Like there's this guy that had his pineal gland surgically removed due to disease. Can that guy still be in Christ? Or is your Christ gland, is the pineal gland literally like an anatomical necessity to be able to be connected to Christ? And I would purport to say that there are analogies that gland is essential in terms of being able to have that level of insight and galactic and consciousness connection, but that even if it were surgically removed or if it were damaged in an accident or something like that, you would still be able to connect with Christ. Because these are pretty big things, and you have to recognize that you as the Son, and you as God, the divine presence, and you as this larger genius of organizational presence would, in order to protect yourself and all shards of self going through time, create fail-safes and backups and redundancies. Kind of like, well, what would I do? It's like if you have an essential camera that guides your car or guides your space vehicle, What if the camera gets damaged? Does it mean that I will float around like a hunk of junk, a space wreck forever, and I will never find my way home? That is not something that you would allow in the divine nature of you as a genius creating the world. You'd have to say, wow, that's something bad that would happen. I've got a contingency plan. I've got backup. I've got something that can happen that can be either a replacement or a way to do it anyway, or some way to supersede that need. So all of this in order to state that I've done a lot of teaching focusing on the pineal gland, and I want you to know that it's not synonymous with Christ's presence in your body, and that I have felt a lot of assaults on pineal gland over the past several years. So now I overtly talk about all the poop crapola that sometimes I just, unmentionables. Let's talk about these unmentionables, because the unmentionables and the self-assembling aspect of the crapola has totally targeted the pineal gland. Let's draw it for you. Hold on one moment. Let me get my little whiteboard going here. So first of all, pineal gland is named that. It has a lot of commonalities to the shape of a pine cone. And wait, let me find a color. No, I have to find a color. Here we go. So it has a lot of commonalities to the shape of a pine cone, especially when it is super duper healthy. So if this is, I'm trying to decide, like, should I just draw a stick figure or should I try to draw something that is anatomical? This is a human being, and then you have like your physical optical eyes here, and your nose holes are here, and your mouth is here. But where is your pineal gland? It is actually deep inside of the midbrain, but it does not reside behind the blood-brain barrier. I feel like I'm already not speaking very well upon this, but so your midbrain, oh my God, this is why I'm not speaking very well upon this. What I'm trying to draw right now is kind of like an X-ray of your brain, and I'm trying to draw these two hemispheres, but even the concept of hemispheres is rather inadequate to talk about this anatomy, but these are some of the words that are used in neurology. So I'm drawing all of these different structures, and just bear with me as best that I possibly can. All right, so this guy over here in purple, that is known as your brain stem, aka reptilian part of your brain. Everyone's like this, Rura, I have a reptile inside of my brain. Quick, get it out of me. It's bad. No, please don't. Wait, I'm gonna jump out the window. There's a reptile inside me. No, please don't jump out the window. Please don't hit your head on the desk. That reptile inside of you is your friend. It is part of evolutionary biology. That reptilian origin right there is what keeps you breathing. It's important stuff. It's also your red chakra and your I am presence. It is the basis of being biologically alive. So please don't be at odds with it. It's your friend. And it's important because you've got a bunch of other stuff that's on top of that. Well, this is technically your cerebellum, which is responsible for a lot of small motor movements. But please understand that there's the mammalian cortex that is in here. That is a collection of a variety of glands that give emotional truth to the pure fight for survival and instinct of the reptilian brain, and that mammalian self mitigates the cold, calculating, often violent reptilian aspect of self. And then once you get up to this orange zone, you're in the human zone. You have these thoughts that are on top of both mammalian and reptilian brain, and this is called cognitive thought. And cognitive thought happens on the convoluted surface of the cerebrum, where mostly humans define themselves by the brain activities that happen in that convoluted area. So the thing that is over here, this is your pineal gland, and that actually exists outside of the blood-brain barrier. Pineal gland does all sorts of amazing things. On a biological, biochemical aspect, what it does is emits three main endogenous brain chemicals. One is DMT. I was thinking about this today also because I'm actually a huge advocate for the use of cannabis, especially dietary cannabis, but also topical cannabis. So in order to sun gaze, it really does help if you put skin oils on your skin that help to change the opacity of your skin layers so that more light literally penetrates through your skin. I'm sure you've seen the difference between, like, if you just have dry skin and it looks rather opaque, and then if you put either water or some kind of coconut oil on it, and I usually use a jojoba oil, your skin becomes more translucent. More light literally enters into your skin and goes into the deeper, lower level surface layers of your skin, and you literally eat more light. So you eat light. Reptiles eat light. You eat light through various different modalities. Topically, through the surface level of your skin. Optically, through your eyes. Let's draw, these are your retinas. So now I'm drawing these kind of like blue membranes that are back here inside of your optical eyes, and those actually connect with amazing, this is your optic nerve. It's not really shaped like that, but I'm just trying to show it goes back into your brain. Your eyes and your optic nerve and your retinas are actually external outgrowths of your brain. They have very, very similar qualities of the cellular structures that are there. So the brain and retinas are innately connected in both their functionality and the type of tissue that they are. You can think of your eyes as external brains, and they absorb light or eat light as well. And then you also eat light. Let's get another color. That is information. The information that you eat comes in here into your insight, into your pineal gland. So your pineal gland is a sender and a receiver of information. And I've emphasized this a lot in this class, but your pineal gland and your Christ chakra, that is your indigo chakra, does not act alone. It acts in concert with your crown. And this is a big, giant, emphasized crown, but think about it in terms of it is shaped like a halo up above your head. The traditional Northern European portrayal of the divine angelic being that has a halo, or an exalted person in religious literature that has a halo up above their head, because that is the activation of the crown. So when I did these lessons 10 years ago, that was before what you are experiencing now, that is literally called a virus of the crown. The C virus that I clutch my pearls and cannot mention overtly on this particular platform is a virus of the crown, because you have this journey that you have to take. I hope this is not too fragmented. You have, first of all, your insight chakra is oriented like this. That's terrible drawn. Is oriented like this, as if it is a lens that rotates around your whole head in this direction, or like, I don't know what is it better. It is literally a lens. It's not even an analogy. It's a lens through which you interpret reality, and you interpret reality on the level of whatever you are as a species. For you, it is human. So the indigo chakra represents your human interpretation lens. First, let's draw some scribbles. Wait, this is reality, a bunch of light waves. These are not yet collapsed into a set of conclusions that you have drawn, or interpretive structures about what reality is. It's just the raw information and potentials of the world. And those light waves and raw information potentials interact with the lens that is created through the activity of your pineal gland and also your inner seat of consciousness and insight. And you come up with an interpretation of reality through the lens or viewpoint of what it is to be human. This is called anthropocentric, meaning anthropo, that is the prefix meaning human, and centric meaning, centered, your human-centered viewpoint. There's nothing wrong with that, as long as you recognize that it is not the end of your journey, and also that other organisms have their own lens that is shaped like themselves as a species. So my dog has a dog-shaped lens that gives her the canine-centric viewpoint. If you're a cat, you've got cats, they have a lens that gives them the feline-centric viewpoint. If you have flatworms or microorganisms, then it would be the microorganism-centric lens of whatever it is. Or if you were a planet, or if you were a galaxy, then it would be a lens that is shaped like what you are in the world. All of these lenses give a valid viewpoint, but not the only viewpoint. That's why I have to bring this up. When you have cultivated your energy to the point of being able to activate your indigo Christ chakra intentionally, you are not all of the way there on your journey. So I'm not going to draw out the whole entire chakra system. What I can do much more easily is just go on over to my picture that I've got here ready for us. I feel like I make the silliest faces while I'm doing my squinting. This, wait, get the annotation. Good. So activating your Christ chakra and being able to see on the level of pure insight is very directly analogous to growing a plant, like a tomato plant. You have over here at the level of red, I should use the right colors, at the level of red, which is your root chakra, that's where you have roots. Literally, your connection not only literally to the planet as your feet walk on the planet, this also recognizes your ancestors, your biological roots of where your presence came from, and also your connection to the abstraction of matter, mother, matter, root word, mommy place, womb of gestation. That's your roots. And you guys know, if maybe you don't, because I was very new to gardening at one point, but now I'm much more experienced with it. So for people who are new to gardening, and forgive me, experienced gardeners, you must have a strong root system in order to grow stems, leaves, flowers, and fruit. You must have a strong root system. If you have only one tiny little skinny root and not a strong root system, there is not enough balance and substrate to be able to hold up the heavier structures and do the nutritive foundation work of getting microbially liberated micronutrients and minerals from the soil. Crystals, eat crystals. You can't eat enough crystals to be able to support and generate all the things that are happening in the other areas of the plant. All right? So for you as enthusiasts on your journey of spiritual attainment, you must begin with your root and with cultivating your physical bodily presence and health in the physical body in order to do something like get up to this level and activate your insight chakra and do direct sun gazing and direct reality co-creation with the sun. That means you have to do exercise. You have to do physical exercise. You have to do stretching and all sorts of good stuff to keep your body healthy. You have to eat proper food. Wait, I'll go back to me for a moment. I mean, a lot of people don't necessarily recognize this because this is my moderate caution against the use of a molecular helper, something like LSD or psilocybin cubensis or DMT. P.S. Your pineal gland emits DMT, but it doesn't emit DMT like 25 times during your life. It doesn't, your pineal gland, you can't be like, hey, pineal gland, like I'm going out to the disco, emit some DMT for me. I want to have a wild night. It doesn't do that. Your pineal gland emits DMT at two very crucial times in your life. When you enter into your body, when your body is gestating in your mother's womb before you're born, and when you die a physical death and you have to leave your body, entering, leaving your body, not going to the discotheque. And that is, I think, not a wise way to use those molecules for this very reason, that if you over-amp up this part of your body up here without doing the foundation root stuff, then it's not going to be sustainable. It's not going to be something that actually grows into the beautiful tomato. So I had already for you the analogy, you're going to have to grow roots and take care of your physical body. And this also goes completely against what people call like the rock and roll lifestyle. The rock and roll lifestyle is, you know, whatever, a person that has no roots. Like they travel all the time, they don't have a home, they don't have a laundry machine, they don't have any of those things. They go from hotel to hotel, taking lots and lots of drugs and, you know, elevating their consciousness artificially up to that level, but they don't eat properly. When they don't stretch, they don't do yoga, and they don't take care of their digestion and have, healthy immune system and intestines and everything like that, but they're tripping out a lot. None of that is healthy, and none of that is sustainable. That is not what I advocate for. This is why I have like yellow caution flags on the way that some people use the molecules that are available. And for you, it might not be whatever, a rock and roll lifestyle like that. It might be a festival lifestyle. You know what I'm talking about? Some young people of all age, they do this kind of like traveling around itinerantly, not very much having roots or positive structures to their existence, and taking molecules and kind of being on a continual psychedelic adventure. And people look at my stuff and they're like, you're on a continual psychedelic adventure. I'm like, I am, but here's the difference between me and what I'm cautioning against. I have a garden. I have a literal garden. I water it every day. I do my activities and my exercise and my muscle building and all these things that are keeping my body container healthy every day. And I have connections to my community, and I do a lot of things that are positive in my community. And then I also do things that are meditations at this level. Wait, I should go through the whole thing. And then I also do things that are make it possible for me to activate my Christ chakra. So if you want to grow a tomato, yes, you have to start off with soil health, and you have to start off with the root system. Then you have to grow stems, and you have to make sure that the stems are strong enough to be able to support all the leaves, and the leaves are your solar collectors. And I would say we're getting up towards this level of unconditional love meditation. You have to be able to practice meditation, which really amounts to inner silence. When you're doing sun gazing, you have to reach those levels of inner silence, because it's the constant verbalized, chattering, talking mind that has been installed as an intentional barrier towards you connecting with yourself as the sun and creating this beautiful, reciprocally beneficial reality creation partnership where you're giving birth to new realities. So in order to give birth to those new realities and to really connect with yourself as the sun and to be in that level of beautiful partnership, you have to be in inner silence. And you'll find inner silence becomes very comfortable. Your talking mind is not your real mind. And no offense to you guys, I love you and I love doing my class, but I'm like, 3 hours of flapping my moving mouth parts, like this is gonna be a lot, because it actually takes a lot of energy to flap your moving mouth parts and activate your throat chakra and vibrate the atmosphere. So yeah, I come from a time place where we just do everything telepathically, and then it's just like, this is so much easier. And you guys, sometimes I connect with you in dreaming too, and I know that you take my telepathic dream classes, and that's also just a lot easier. So you have to get to the level of meditation, and that's like growing leaves before you even try to make tomatoes. You have to practice inner silence, and your inner silence, these are like your solar collectors that you use to get even more energy. You have to collect a lot of energy and save your energy and use it well to then be able to get up to this level of activating your level of pure insight. And so you do that through creating a frictionless inner environment, doing a lot of this cultivating non-verbalism, because verbalism is like the talking mind represents inner friction, saving up your energy during the day and spending it wisely. And then when you are able to naturally activate your insight, your eye of insight, what you're able to do is build a bridge, that tendril of attention that connects between your own forehead and the sun. And this is your own non-locality, even before you learn how to do flying rainbow lasagna. But that's like making a flower in your mind. And that's not the same as having a tomato, which is the fruit that not only can you consume, but contains the seeds for the next generation or the next level of reality. So my big caution for everyone is that once you get up to this level of your indigo insight, just getting the right color, get up to this level of your indigo insight over here, and you're able to create that lens, that's still not the end of your journey. you're still seeing and perceiving and eating food and receiving the organized data information through your anthropomorphic lens that is in front of your face. And that anthropomorphic lens, being at that level, is a perilous time when the things that you see are possibly misinterpreted, because you're looking at the world and collapsing those waveforms through your anthropocentric viewpoint, and you are still influenced by your cultural viewpoint. So if you come from Judeo-Christian culture, you're not only being anthropocentric, but you are being ethnocentric to Judeo-Christianity, meaning that you interpret things through the teachings of that particular worldview, particular religion. And it's really, really essential to clean your lens, clear your lens so you're getting a clear viewpoint, and then also press pause on any major commitments or conclusions that you may draw as energy, because you could take years of building your root system. You know what that would look like? Like if you want to do something in yoga, like to do a handstand, you don't just be like, oh, I think I'll do a handstand next Tuesday. Like, no, first you should practice this, and this for 5 years, and then you'll have the strength to be able to do a handstand. So you have to practice these incremental things before you can do these major attainments. So in order for you to be able to get up to the level of naturally activating and utilizing your insight and your connection to the sun and the stars, you have to do all this foundation, like core work. You have to work on the core, not only abdominal and torso muscles of your soul, but also like the deep interior structural integrity muscles of your physical body and your soul. So that basically that amounts to a huge amount of unconditional love. Unconditional love being literally the currency, like money is currency, but also the currency like electrons flowing in a wire is currency of the cosmos. Because unconditional love is required when you start to see a bunch of stuff. So you might start to activate your insight naturally without taking any particular type of molecular helper. Like you've been doing different things like muscle building and stretching and eating properly and plenty of cardio and growing your garden and taking care of your community and also spending time in inner silence. Because again, those are two things, like you're part of the world, but then also sometimes you disentangle from the world and you go into inner silence and you withdraw. It's a balance between those two things. You've got plenty of gas in your car, and then ideas and insights start to come to you on an inner level, and you might see things that are challenging. That's why you need unconditional love, because unconditional love is the acceptance, the love tone, and the plateau upon which all these other higher faculties rest, the plateau of acceptance, because you will be challenged by the things that you see. So first, I know my life is different than you, but when I first came here as Aurora and I was very, very open and saw and sensed a lot of things, and I was like, ooh. Yeah, how do I put those facial expressions into words? I was concerned and taken aback, somewhat shocked and somewhat disheartened, or wanting to reject the things that I saw about people, because I might have seen some things that were very distressing, like about people's inner states, the things that they had done, the way that they had hurt other people, what they had done in their lives. Like this is when you start to get to the level of being able to really read and access and know things about people. What people call being psychic. You got it? I'm very psychic. And what I started to ask my pineal gland in terms of creating this shield and this filter was, just give me the information that I need in order to navigate my life. I really don't need to know that much about that guy over there, because it was so destabilizing and so distressing to me, because I saw a lot of ugly stuff about other people, not just about their health concerns and things that they were facing in terms of the imbalances of their somatic body, but also about like who they were as people, things they had done, the way that they had treated other people. And I was just like, wow, not in a good way. And also, I was not ordained or in a position to mentor or counsel any of those people. So you just walk around being like, I see what's going on with that guy. I see what's going on with that guy. I see what's going on with that guy. And to carry that burden of information, but not be empowered to actually do something about it in terms of anybody's life is a disempowering situation when you get to this level. And also, when you are at that, so you want to be able to make sure you're receiving the right amount of information that is actually illuminating to you on your journey, and that you're actually ordained or empowered to do something with that information. And then also hold any conclusions that you have until you get to this level. Because when you see at this level, you're seeing through your anthropocentric lens. You're seeing like something that someone did or thought and how that impacted the world. But when you are seeing at this level, when you activate the crown, then what you are doing is seeing in a way that's much more like my drawings and paintings, what you call an abstraction. So in the world of visual arts, something is representational when a thing, looks like a bowl of fruit, or whatever, a vase of flowers. It's a representational painting. And my paintings would be considered to be abstract because they are not a picture of a bowl of fruit or a vase of flowers, but they actually are truthful portrayals of a world that is a world of pure abstraction and the mathematical patterns that you will find there. So my paintings like Jackson Pollock can be considered an abstraction, and my stuff would be considered an abstraction, except his abstraction is just a personal self-expression and an exploration of paint splatters as a medium, and mine is a conformity to a series of very, very carefully measured parameters that are the foundation of laws in the cosmos and in, higher reality. Hold your conclusions until you get to the viewpoint of higher reality. Hold your conclusions until you can actually see the math formulas that uphold and create and generate reality. Because if you're at this level of unconditional love and you have a certain amount of insight and you see stuff about people and you're like, oh, this is what's going on. And first of all, I didn't portray it enough. It's not just that your mouth is exhausting or I'm so tired, I'm melting. It's so like, oh, poor me, I'm so tired. What actually happens is, like, imagine that you're kind of like filling up a glass of water or filling up a balloon, like energy is coming up from my heart, energy is coming up from my heart. Keep inner silence, energy is coming up from my heart. Oh, look, I'm looking at stuff and seeing stuff. And now that I look at stuff and see stuff, if I immediately want to tell someone else about it, my energy goes down to my mouth, which sometimes can be wanting to speak about it, but sometimes can be, let me grab a pen or a pencil and I'm gonna write this in my sketchbook and I'm gonna make a drawing about it. When I do that, immediately my energy of seeing goes into my energy of expressing. So I say to you, do your seeing first. Do your root cultivation, your stem cultivation, your leaf cultivation. Get to a state of inner silence. Get to the point where you can activate your inner vision. Get to the point where you can activate your inner vision beyond the anthropocentric viewpoint to the level of pure abstraction. Then grab your pencil and do sketches in your sketchbook, or grab your typewriter and start to write your manifesto about everything that you've seen. The cautionary tale is what happens when seekers of spiritual attainment get to the level of insight but not yet to the level of pure abstraction, and they're already writing their manifesto, having drawn many multiple conclusions through their partial viewpoint. It's not the totality viewpoint. So you have to recognize you're seeing a portion of truth from that viewpoint, but not total galactic abstract truth. And if you just hold on and be like, wow, that's interesting stuff, but let's not jump to conclusions yet. Let's really go forward and see more. It's like saying, if you're reading a book, like, wow, page 1 through 72 is fascinating, and I'm thinking that it's going to be like this, but before I decide what's really going on in this story, let's read on. And then you get up to page 172 and you're like, wow, I'm happy that I kept going, because now everything looks completely different than it looked on page 72. So when you go from this level here of insight to this level here of the crown and connection to the divine presence, you get a more multifaceted approach across time and across all species. You get contextualization for the activities, for the diseases. Like if you're a healer and you want to know how to heal somebody, you're like, I want to be a medical intuitive. I want to activate my inner vision. I want to know why somebody has toenail fungus, or why they whatever burp after they eat jalapeno peppers. Like these are small things. And you're like, okay, great. I'm going to focus my tendril of attention on their esophagus and find out what's going on with them, or focus on their toenails and see what's going on with them. And it's like, that's great. But if you can just wait a little bit longer before you draw those conclusions, you will then also see their health within a much, much larger context of their life patterns, their social patterns, their thought and behavioral patterns, their ancestors, their activities, everything else that's going on, and then be able to give genuine, real healing. So this becomes, even a small healing on something like toenail fungus, becomes something that is an overarching, of deep significance activity, where you like, wow, like you really see a person and you comprehend everything about them, and it's not just this little seemingly insignificant biological disease that they've got, but it's something much, much bigger. It's actually, everything becomes more significant, everything becomes more meaningful, everything becomes more specific. So now you have to recognize where you are as a species and as a planet in your planetary ascension. That what happened over the past 3 years, and the things that are unmentionable that I can't speak about, are a virus or a hijacking or an infestation of the crown. That's what the C virus literally translates to. It is an attempted hijacking or derailment or distraction from the very, very natural leveling up that has to do with creating an active partnership between your brow and your crown. That this is the most perilous thing when you've gotten up to this level of indigo but not yet activated the violet, because that's when the insights that you are receiving are the most ripe for misinterpretation. You're receiving information, but it's not totally pristine empirical information. It is still information that has some capacity to be distorted. And so that is the time when it's a vulnerable time in your personal development, in your planetary development, your development as a species, like as a group collective consciousness, and you have been attacked during that vulnerable time. Because of course, this I haven't mentioned enough is also your eye of time that you can use to anticipate. You can use to be able to see and sense incoming activities, and also incoming and ongoing patterns. So if something bad's going to happen, you can definitely sense like, oh, some bad SHIT is going to happen. Let's avoid it, right? But your accuracy is much more accurate when you're at the level of the crown than when you're just at the level of human interpretation. These two things look completely different. So first of all, I didn't talk enough about what your pineal gland is. It is like an eyeless eye, like a lensless eye. It has retina cells inside of it. It is stimulated by literal thoughts and electro stimulation, some of which are local, some of which are non-local. That means you can take an actual electrode and stick it into someone's brain and be like, zap, zap, zap. And the person's going to be like, I'm seeing purple cupcakes in my mind. It's like, yes, because we're zapping your purple cupcake centers in your mind. It's a false stimulation that is local. This is what's going on with the thing that has entered into humanity that is not a traditional virus. It is actually a technosomatic apparatus. That is what the wetware is. That if this is your pineal gland inside of your brain, the tiny artificial wiring system has grown all around the pineal gland and sends artificial stimulations to your pineal gland, making a person think that they are seeing and perceiving stuff that is not actually there. It is a way, get it? It's a way of hijacking your vulnerability in that moment, because you should be able to tell truth from fiction, but you don't yet have your lens and system of interpretation fully up and running. That happens when you get to the level of the crown. That is when your BS detector is fully operational, and when you are fully shielded from these levels of false information, because you need to be guided through your awakening to becoming a light eater again. Being a light eater again means that you are given a series, a curriculum, of information in order that brings you into that aha moment of, aha, I can eat light. Being a light eater is not this. It is not simply the cessation or removal of foods in deprivation. That would amount to starvation at the root level. Your physical body presence doesn't even get enough calories, even though lots of people hallucinate if you don't give them food. And yogis and masters and different people who have been trying to reach levels of attainment, they've done this over a long amount of time. They fast, and fasting and not having enough food, and also people who are kept as prisoners of war and who are starved, hallucinate. You will see stuff that is not really stuff that's there, but it does not mean that you will have total access to the truthful library of consciousness as it exists in the galaxy. So there's a big distinction between hallucinating and seeing stuff that isn't there as your body is going through huge levels of deprivation, in contrast with the healthy functioning of your pineal gland and your inner mind, which can happen when you are fully sustained with all the food and water that you need, and where you get real information. So in order to become a light eater, you simply don't starve yourself. And also, you don't just eat a bunch of random radiation. Like I joke, here's your bowl of neutrinos. Eat it, kid, like Brussels sprouts. You eat specific ideas. This is a handcrafted, customized photon. Like imagine when you have those amazing sushi chefs and they cut, every little piece of fish is cut perfectly, and there's one little egg that they put on top of it, and then a tiny little microgreen sprig, and then it's like, here, this is for you. That is what it's like when you truly have a functional pineal gland, eye of insight, your crown is activated, and you have an unfettered connection to the sun and the stars and the consciousness that flows, the light consciousness that flows through that whole stellar network. It's like having the most amazing personal sushi chef making every little bite, every little tidbit morsel comes into your mind. So here's your tendril of attention, and you're questing and you're wondering. You're like, I want to learn about this. I want to learn about this, all right? This is getting your library card of the universe. You've earned your energy up to this point, and you get your library card, and then you're able to have access to all of this information. But just entering into the library of the cosmos is, again, a vulnerable position if you're not reading at your reading level, and if you're not comprehending what you are reading and in integrating it and interpreting it effectively. So just because you have activated your pineal gland does not mean that you're infallible. Because now we're going to talk about Christ consciousness and whether Christ consciousness is infallible, and whether Christ consciousness is synonymous with the light of the sun, and what's been going on with nanotechnology, and whether nanotechnology can control or subvert or infest Christ consciousness with a bunch of false information. But the key point for right now is this and this work together, this and this work together like a partnership, and that you need to have your library card active, and then you also need to be able to be guided by the librarian. And the librarian is this crown chakra that will turn your head, literally turning your gaze, so that look over here, now look over here, now look over here, now look over here, giving you a pattern. This is actually the sushi chef over here that is giving you the exact right nutritional pattern of information that you need, that is totally non-random, that is totally customized for you, and that brings you to these greater levels of insight and correct conclusions that allow you to be a light eater. So right now you have a series of conclusions that are part of your physical presence, that they tell you like, oh, like you have to eat food to stay alive, and that death is inevitable, and all these things. Those are a series of conclusions or foods, information foods that you have eaten, that you have incorporated into your body truth. And in order to move away from that level of body truth, you don't just stop eating physical food, and then you don't just stare at a very, very bright object. What you need to do is receive the guidance of your cognitive awareness to go from the presumptions of what it is to be a materialism person, moving like a steam engine, like I just had a bunch of smoothie and now I put it in my tummy and now I'm walking on a treadmill and I'm releasing kinetic energy and heat. Like, yes, all those things are happening, but that is like the thinnest layer of foundation of what I'm doing, I'm also doing so many other things on the level of pure energy and pure consciousness. And that in order to move into the level of experience where you no longer require the physical smoothie to eat, it's not just that you're like, oh, hooray, I will save so much on my food bills. I'm going to save $400 a month. Guys, I'm going to be rolling in dough because I'm just going to eat a bunch of totally free sunlight. It's not like that. It's not like that because, again, this is like a spiritual attainment that is moving beyond materialism is a huge attainment, and it's not something that you do for egocentric motivations. You don't do it in order to say, nanny poo-poo, I'm more than you, I have done this thing, I now have attitude about how I've done this thing, and you have not done this thing, I'm going to compare myself to you. That is egocentrism and competition. And it's also not done for the conveniences, like I said, of merely saving money or availability or any kind of thing like that. It's really done as a part of your soul's development because it is the right thing for you to do in the curriculum of your life to move beyond physical food eating. So you don't move beyond physical food eating just because you're like, I'm bored with avocado toast. Nothing really brings my appetite up. I think I'll just stop eating and become a light eater or a breatharian. That is not why you do this. You do this because you are ready to transition from materialism to immaterial, energetic truth and embodiment of being a light being. And when you do this transformation, you don't come back. You don't be like, okay, I'm bored with avocado toast and sushi. I'm going to go off and be a light eater. And then after a couple of weeks, be like, I miss sushi. Let's come back to eating physical food. You can't do that. It is a one-way metamorphosis. You don't be like, I'm a caterpillar, I'm bored with eating leaves, I'm going to go in my cocoon and become a butterfly. And then as a butterfly, be like, I kind of miss those mulberry leaves. Let me go back and eat some of them. Like, you don't do that. You can't do that. You don't have the mandibles to eat mulberry leaves anymore. So when you do this transition to light eating, it is part of your ascension journey in your body, and it's also part of your ascension journey of your whole entire planet and everything that you're connected to. This is also why it's not just a regular old egocentric choice, like, today I think I'm going to wear this blue dress. So actually, because your choice of what you're going to do and how it's going to be is connected to so many other lives and so many other timelines, and is absolutely in a positive way interwoven into the fabric of space and time. And that's why it happens in its own time. So the relationship between the brow and the crown, I like to talk about this in pristine terms. I want you guys for a moment to drop all of your cultural and personal baggage about what it is to be married, about what it is to be in a partnership, about what it is to be a man and a woman, about what it is to be together and committed to one another, and just think in very ideal terms. Because I come from a very ideal place, and all of these relationships with self and with highest consciousness should be taken in the most ideal sense. But really what we're talking about is an ideal partnership and an ideal marriage between your Christ chakra, insight, eye of mind, and your divine connection, crown, librarian guidance system. That there is no power struggle. So I recognize that earthly relationships often contain an inherent power struggle. Who is stronger? Who wears the pants in this relationship? What is it to be a man? What is it to be a woman? P.S. If you guys don't know this about me, like, I come from a place where I am an energy form, and I am beyond being a particular gender of male or female. That does not mean, well, I'm in this body, that I'm transgender. In this body, I'm a woman. But I had such a steep learning curve. I'm like, this is what it is to be a woman. And then also, like, this is my face. Like, this is how they look at you when you're a woman, and this is what they expect of you. Like, women in the thumbnail are smiling, laughing at me. But yes, I had to learn so many different things about what the presumptions of others based upon me being a woman and how I interrelate with males of the species and with your whole entire cultural context, which is based on biology and biological reproduction, your mating and dating things and everything. I mean, I have so many funny fish out of water stories because I used to go to karaoke because I like to sing, but I had to learn, like, no, karaoke is also a mating and dating ritualistic environment, and you have to recognize what's going on there in terms of people's social patterns. And also, I didn't know in so much innocence, even 10 years ago, how really difficult and fraught human relationships were in terms of abuse, filters of trauma, things that people have been through, things that happened to people in their childhood that either with their parental figures, their caregivers, that defined what they think relationship is, and then reiterating those patterns in their own relationships in very unhealthy ways. We're putting all that baggage down for a moment, and we're just talking about this ideal partnership that is based on pure love, pure devotion, and respect, reciprocal respect. And in this level of respect and partnership, this area of your anatomy and this area of your anatomy integrate seamlessly, and each one does its own job. So your Christ chakra, your indigo chakra here, is supposed to be strong and protective. That force field around your face is not just your interpretive structure about how you look at the world through your human lens. It's also meant to block out excessive information. Like, you're supposed to be able to stand in the sun and be blasted with this information fire hose, but not have too much come inside of you, because too much is going to incinerate you. You'd be like, you're a cinder. You just got blasted by all of the information of like God's true mind coming at you. And it's like, and here's everything. Here's all the truthfulness of the nature. And you're like, okay, you just incinerated me. It's too much. So your Christ chakra, the lens that is around your face, is meant to be a very, very positive protector. So this is a literalism in your body, blocking out excessive sunlight and excessive signal, and also who and what is Christ consciousness. It is a larger telepathic network that represents an overarching metacognitive being that represents a protector in this cosmos. And you're gonna be like, Aurora, I'm getting all mad here because our planet's had a lot of bad stuff happen on it right now, and we need some protection. And then somebody hasn't been doing their job. I agree completely, because there are problems in Earth's stratosphere, the layer of your atmosphere that represents and is analogous to your Christ chakra. Right now you've got a whole bunch of sky poop up there. You got sky poop pooping up your stratosphere, and every day Starlink satellite poops up some extra poops up there. It's like there's not enough diarrhea of satellites. They put more diarrhea satellites up there. I use these analogies because I'm very actually unhappy about it, and it just makes it a little bit easier to make it lighthearted. But it's a crime. What is happening in your planet's atmosphere is a horrific crime in iniquity, something that is shocking and horrifying and should never happen, but is the intentional blockading of the planetary inhabitants on the surface from effective connection to the sun and the stars and beyond. It is an assault on Christ, and it is antichrist. And that's only a part of what you have going on. So you have the satellites that are there. Then you also have, as again, I was using my hand as an analogy, here's your pineal gland, and here's a bunch of nano wetware in your brain. No one is immune. Don't jump out a window. No one is immune. Be a warrior. Recognize the truth of what I'm telling you. In this world, almost everyone here has inhaled through aerosols, unintentionally, a bunch of self-assembling particulates that have gone into the retinas, optic nerves, processing, signal processing areas of your optical lobes of your brain, and pineal gland, in order to create an illusory augmented reality world. We live in a world of illusion beyond even the level of illusion that the ancient Hindu empire recognized and called Maya. We're talking about a world of illusion where artificial light flashes are flashed into your retina that might be seeing words spelled differently than they actually are there. We're talking about things that you would say are subliminals, below your level of conscious cognitive awareness, but affecting cognitive awareness. And then also sometimes these are overt omissions, that there can be something flying in the sky that is, number one, not a terrestrial craft, number two, not a fixed wing aircraft that, works upon the principle of lift and other levels of terrestrial physics. And you might not even be able to see it because it is being edited from your eye. Yes, your brain has an innate self-editing possibility. That's because you have blind spots where your optic nerve connects to your retina. You have an area that is a blind spot, and so you're technically not receiving information from that area of your visual field, but your brain has an amazing capacity to fill in the blanks. Fill in the blanks. Well, this nano wetware creates other blind spots of things that are flying in the sky and says, that's not a thing there, you're not going to see it, that's something that isn't actually there, and your perceptive capacity fills in with blue sky so that you don't actually see what's going on there. Or sometimes what you see is something that is cloaked. What you see is a different interpretation of the light that is there. You're not seeing the true light or the true information of the object that is actually there in reality, but you are instead being shown an illusion, an alternative, non-real visual story of what is in reality. And I'm going to go even further, because people's faces are being distorted. Really, really recognize this in your world, especially over the past 3 years. When you look at your own face, when you look at other people's faces, when you look at people's faces on social media and anything that is a digital device, you're not seeing their true face. You are seeing a distortion of their face that has to do with the internal wetware and interpretation system inside of a person's neurology, and how that interacts with various different facial recognition filters in your physical world. So this program that I'm on right now, the ZOOM, does have a facial filter. And I used to notice things were going on a lot when I would watch my old YouTube uploads, and I'd be like, my face doesn't look like that. What's that looking like that for? That doesn't look like that. Artificial aging. I noticed that a lot. And you know what's kind of interesting? And I shared this with Charlie. He's like a computer programmer. He knows a lot about stuff. And I said, like, yeah, since I started walking on a treadmill, I think in my videos, my face looks more like my true face, because I'm always kind of like moving like this. So because what the Zoom does is it's like, oh, like this is the background, like that window is going to be there for the next 3 hours. It doesn't have to constantly be regenerating it. You know what I mean? And that same thing, like that sculpture is going to be there. That beam in the ceiling is going to be there. It just kind of says that is the background. That is what it is. And then if you're kind of standing still, then it is able to kind of more easily make changes and amendments to things that are your appearance, about how you look. But Charlie said, like, oh yeah, like they could probably, come up with some kind of a filter to be able to deal with the movement. But I'm noticing just in my own personal experience, my face looks more like myself on these videos now. I think because I'm moving all the time and I'm kind of constantly bobbing and weaving, that this thing can't quite get a easy way of being able to say, like, oh, that's where the eye and the nose and the chin are. Now I will control or distort what others are seeing about it. But all of that aside, that's just like a fun little tangent rabbit hole to dive down. But all of that aside, please recognize that you're not seeing real reality. You're not seeing real reality. And seeing is believing. That's an expression. And then Iowa is the show me state in the United States. Basically, it was the idea that Iowan people are like, I won't believe it unless you show me. Get it? And so you have to kind of, like, if I, had some kind of a wild claim, if I was like, going to sell something, be like, buy this stuff, then the Iowa people would be like, oh yeah, does it work? Show me, right? The show me state. Seeing is believing. This is a very, very big part. So if you wanted to hijack, control, or distort, or mispurpose someone's belief abilities and capabilities in terms of believing reality structures into existence, hijack their eyesight. All right, this is what is going on. This is what the C virus has been about. A technological implantation when you are at your most vulnerable as beings who are awakening in Christ, to be able to know how to interpret what you're seeing on an anthropomorphic level and make it across this perilous journey to connect with the actual crown. Back to my definition of what this perfect and divine reciprocal relationship is. Christ is the protector, or like imagine it as like the house within which the compass exists, and this crown is the aperture of ultimate sensitivity. You can think about whatever your body part is like the most sensitive body part. That is analogous to what your crown is like. Like, of course, like your mouth and your genitals and your eyes, like these are all like very, very sensitive parts of your body with good reason. And we want to protect them. Like, we want to protect our eyes with eyelids. We want to protect our body parts that are these amazing sensory organs, that they don't get overstimulated or injured in some way. The Christ insight level of the brow is meant to be a protector that protects the super sensitive crown from either overstimulation or stimulation by something that is not truthful or injury. And I definitely will say that I have witnessed a breakdown in the efficacy of the Christ chakra that is supposed to be not only protecting me in my own body, because we should all be protected from that nano wetware. The Christ chakra should be like, nope, you're not allowed to get in here. Somehow it got in here. We are, as a planet, should be protected from the star poop satellites, and also from anything being sprayed upon you as an ecosystem, and from anything being zapped into you, either from external or from ground-based antennae. Your DNA being zapped with poop vibrations. That you should be protected from that by a giant, benevolent, telepathic galactic society that I come from. And this is how I can say these things. Like, I know what this stuff is supposed to be like, and I know what is not happening. And I'm like, there is a huge disconnect between what I know is the larger, meta, overarching, beautiful, benevolent, galactic, self-responsible group of beings. That is what Christ is, or that who are also in Christ, who are connected telepathically. And what's not going on this planet, because there should be some major ASS kicking going on this planet. Anybody wants to put up like star poop satellites, that there should be a whole giant response to that in order to protect the planet from allowing that to happen. And again, I am here doing what I am doing, and I'm very much a protector, and I have no problem with saying that. Like, I'm doing everything to my own utmost abilities and gaining abilities almost every day to be able to protect you guys from these false information, errant signals, and then also to bring in the real information, lasagnaing in the groceries, lasagnaing in the information, the tomatoes, the avocados, that guide you and encourage you on your path to becoming a pure light eater, and that encourage you to be able to actually jump over obstacles and get out to the grocery store too. Now you can see that's what this class is. This class is quote unquote tomatoes and avocados that I got from the sun. And I got them from the sun 10 years ago, but I just sat outside on my front porch this morning, and I put wonderful skin oils and skin cream on the sun on my skin, and I did my sun gazing. And while I'm listening to my recording from 10 years ago, and I'm like, okay, this is what I got to talk about, because we're not in the same circumstance that we were in 10 years ago. We're in a very, very difficult circumstance. In a large part, I was mystified and disappointed as to how nano wetware could even be installed into the population of this world. How could it threaten your pineal glands? How could you have a series of lies and delusions beamed into your retinas and beamed into your imagination architecture of your mind? Yes, I recognize that this is a peril that is here to try to hijack your relationship with the sun and with manifesting realities, but also all of these fail-safes exist, and redundancies exist in order to prevent this type of stuff from happening, because God is not stupid. God is not a stupid idiot. God is incredible smart genius that's like, oh yeah, I'm doing this important thing, and I have to make sure that it doesn't get totally hijacked and pooped upon in a very perilous way that would make a lot of bad realities come into being. So you want to make sure that only the right realities are given birth to. As I talk about this in my class from 10 years ago, when you do sun gazing, what you're doing is an amazing level of really love making with the sun. Hold on, I need a little bit more water. Hold on, I'm just going to pause for a minute. So this relationship of indigo to violet, or brow to crown, is analogous to an earth partnership of mating for reproduction, and also your relationship as an individual to the sun as an emanator in the sky is analogous to how a man and a woman get together to make a baby. A man and a woman get together, they biologically reproduce, they make a baby, they make a new life. When you do sun gazing with the sun, what you're doing is generating a new reality. And that in exactly the same way, if somebody hijacked the lovemaking that you were doing with your spouse or partner, and they would be like, well, your kid was going to look like this, but now we're going to grossly disfigure your kid. Or, like some mutation would come in, or some disfigurement or something like that. That is the peril that you're facing right now as you try to connect with the sun, because you have not only inner wetware giving you illusions and false feelings, stuff that's in your sky that is physical sky poop, aerosols and satellites, but then you also have a false light that is not the true sun, and how difficult it is for you to even see the true face of your lover. This is like, I don't even know, have an analogy in your literature about what this would be like, but you're like trying to make love to your own partner, and then there's some kind of imposter there wearing a mask pretending to be your partner. It's just very grotesque, and none of this should be happening if all of these fail-safes and redundancies were in action, and if Christ, the overarching telepathic network, were effective in protecting. So this is, and again, like this, how do I characterize this, is not merely meant to be saying, wah wah, wah wah, I don't like it, or naughty naughty, Christ is not doing what Christ is supposed to do, but is in many ways giving me an opportunity to express my very great dismay at, I come from Christ and I'm connected to that level of consciousness, and I know what the levels of commitment are there, that it's not anything that is done as a disposable, like everyone there is super committed, and again, that's at the level where it's like everything you've ever done is written on you like a book. Like if you don't do something that you're supposed to do, it's written there. Like anything, you didn't coil up the electrical cord and then somebody else tripped on it and they fell down the stairs, like that's on you. That's on you, and it's written on you that you didn't coil up the electrical cord. If you didn't stop the Starlink sky poops from getting pooped into the atmosphere, and then a bunch of humans got harmed and they also emitted a bunch of harmful realities, that's on you. Why didn't you coil up the electrical cord? So these are very, very real disappointments or dismays and distresses that I feel in the sense of, like, I know what I'm doing, and I'm here doing the utmost of my own efforts in presence to be able to protect all of you. But I also know that there's a huge galactic society that should similarly be very, very active and committed in their protection of you as individuals, and of you as a planet, and of you as a species coming into your levels of personal attainment. And I don't have an answer, nor do I furnish you with an answer. I will not make excuses for them. And so when I get into these levels of deep distress, I'm like, fine, like I do me, you do you. Everything is written on you like a book. And like you go do your thing or don't do your thing. That's fine. And that's how I've been kind of doing this, because otherwise I would just spin in circles of being like, hello, Christ, like you're not supposed to let this happen, because we are at the level of the crown and Christ is supposed to be protecting us in this moment of ascension, so that we can feel these incredible feelings of sensation, sensitivity. So now let me speak about the crown. The crown is infinitely sensitive, the way that like your eyesight is infinitely sensitive. You're supposed to be able to see all of these variations of light and color and dark and intensity and different feelings and qualities, and then be navigated and guided by those different qualities. And right now, humanity has been flying blind. That's not how you're supposed to do ascension at all. You're supposed to have feeling states that guide you. And all of the sky poop and the artificial signals and things that are both internal and external, they act not only as a prison, that means that you can't get out of there and get to where you want to go, but that they act as preventing you from being able to access your God positioning system, your internal guidance. And your internal guidance is supposed to guide you like this. When you move in certain directions, you're like, this feels amazing. This looks beautiful, feels beautiful, and I feel like everything is fantastic. And then if you're off target, and if you move in other directions, feel like, oh, like this feels crappy, or this doesn't feel right, or this feels painful, or this feels like this, or this feels like this. It's feeling states. And then to navigate away from those feeling states, because to be on that central core timeline here, you should feel exalted, you should feel euphoric, you should feel effing fantastic. You should feel like the greatest level of you in your body that you could possibly feel like. And when you're at an angle like this and you're heading towards the membrane of death, you should be like, I feel like crap, feel wrong, feel kind of a little bit off, and then let's see if we can fix things. This should be your guidance system. This is the super sensitive needle that tells you which direction is God. Where should you be going? Which timelines should you be going on? Who should you be talking with? What activities should you be doing? That should be guiding your ascension. Should make you feel unhappy and distressed, because over the past 3 years, you've had the literal antithesis of that. What you should have been able to do is be in a state of total and complete freedom, where you could choose, having a conversation with person A over here makes me feel exalted. Person A is fantastic. I feel so energized. I'm doing exactly what I want to be doing. But if I talk with person B, like, I feel so drained, I feel so crappy, I really don't feel right at all, I don't want to have to do that. I don't want to have to talk with person B. And then you should be able to make a very clear choice. Talk with person A, don't talk with person B. Boom. But because there have been so many things that distort your feeling centers, and I'm not even just talking about down here, your emotional, here I'm pointing to down here by below your belly button. Those are your mammalian emotional centers, not just your mammalian emotional centers, but the emotional centers that are part of your higher faculties. You have feelings, is a better way of saying it. Your feeling states that are involved in your heart and your communication and your insight and your connection to the divine. That has all been crapped up and distorted. Your guidance system that is supposed to guide you through this very, very critical time of self-development has been crapped up, so that you haven't been able to choose. So not being able to choose, that would be like you're in a prison. You're like, I can see stuff. I want to go over there towards person A, but I can't. I have these handcuffs on. But then you don't have to have handcuffs if all that they do is distort things with an illusion. And they make it so that maybe talking with person A doesn't feel so great. And then maybe artificially amplify good feelings of talking with person B. And then you gravitate towards person B instead of person A, and then you're off your ascension path. This is what I call the 5D smoothie shop. 5D, as I am cautioning you, not the fifth dimension, but what people are talking about, the fifth density, because I even had to recognize the way that language is being misused against you. People have talked about a quote-unquote exalted state called 5D, where they feel that they are reaching levels of personal spiritual attainment, and that they're moving into their ascension experience through that. I am saying caution, because I call it the 5D smoothie shop, a realm of artificially elevated, manufactured good feelings. That has nothing at all to do with real ascension. And they have put things into people's minds using this nano wetware, the self-assembly neural networks that go into the pleasure centers of your brain. You can get happy zaps and you can get sad zaps. And some people are conforming to the agenda of the techno inquisition. When you conform, good dog, you are a very, very good dog, and you will now get happy zaps. Zap, this is me with my Nintendo buttons. We're going to zap that guy over there, give him some happy zaps. And then that guy gets on the internet and he's like, guys, I'm in the fifth dimension. I'm 5D. I'm 5D. I'm 5D. You are losers. I'm at the smoothie shop. I'm having so much fun. And I call it the 5D smoothie shop because, when you go, first of all, the fifth dimension, as I teach about it, is a world of pure waveforms. It is not even a fourth dimensional timeline. It is a world of pure abstractions. You are currently already in the fifth dimension. You access the fifth dimension through your quantum state. It is a realm of huge empowerment where you are able to access the basic building blocks of reality, of time, of matter, and create the foundation of your experience as a being embedded in time. There aren't smoothie shops in 5D. There's just waveforms, potentials. So you're not going to drive your physical car to a physical parking lot and get out of the physical, into a little shopping center and be like, woohoo, like you're going to get a burrito, I'm going to get a smoothie, we're in 5D, this is great. Like you don't do that in 5D because 5D is a place of waveforms. So what people are feeling when they are feeling these I'm in 5D kind of feelings is a sense of an artificial stimulation of their euphoria and pleasure centers in their brains. That is leading them in the wrong direction. That is what the C virus is. It's a series of illusory, not just imagery, but feeling states that misguide humans at this very, very critical level of your inner development. And I am angry and disappointed at the Christ Network, and I'm saying it here, sorry to be so open about it. It's like, guys, why are you letting this happen? I don't think this is right. I think these people should be able to make real choices about where they really want to go, not be influenced by or happy zaps, sad zaps, or illusory implants into their mind, their bloodstream, their biochemistry, or their pineal gland, because this affects all of those things. 5G, millimeter wave, it's not just a telecommunications grid. It's also not just a series of radiations like X-rays. It's not just cooking your flesh like microwaves. It cooks your flesh, but it also gives you false story states and false feelings. You can have the flesh of your body and brain being cooked, literally having the waters agitated and removed erroneously and harmfully from your skin and your body, causing disease and accelerated decrepitude and aging and drying out your skin and causing tissue death while you feel great at the 5D smoothie shop, thinking that you're feeling so exalted, thinking that that is your ascension. What's really happening is your brain is being fried and they are making it feel good to you. That would be one of the most evil things you could do to someone. Because not only it's bad to fry people, not only is it bad to hurt their minds, but to fry someone in a way that you are stimulating artificially implanted pleasure centers, giving them happy zaps, and destroying them in a very pleasant way. This is my caution to every single one of you. I hope it doesn't sound appealing. I hope that you don't think, oh hooray, I hope I'm at the 5D smoothing shop getting my brain fried, but thinking that I'm in an exalted ascension state. That I hope that you don't want to be that, because I don't want you to be that. I want you to think of that as the most grotesque distortion of your experience. And part of what I'm doing right now is giving you caution, giving you the series of sushi. I'm a sushi chef, and I'm giving you handcrafted warnings, bites that I want you to eat that warn you, so that way when you are making your navigational choices through your life each day and each moment, you're like, oh, I hope that that's not just an artificial stimulation of my pleasure centers by something that is a technological inquisition of pure malevolence trying to take me off of my ascension path. Because what you should be able to do is have an unfettered real experience. So just like in romance, you should fall in love with the person that you genuinely fall in love with. Like you see them through clear eyes and you feel your feelings in your heart and you're like, you're the one for me. P.S. Love at first sight is real, and I felt that when I first saw my dog Cheeky. So Cheeky is my soulmate, and that this can happen. And that's the real feeling. But if I use my example between me and Cheeky, what if I got artificially bad feelings zapped at me when I saw a picture of my dog, and instead had artificially elevated feelings when I saw a picture of a poodle named Zelda? That was another dog that I could have adopted many years ago. And then it would have made me make different choices to be able to align with a different dog that's not even my true dog who I'm really supposed to be with. And so this has to do with not only personal relationships of whom you partner with or whom you love in mammalian sense, but also what activities do you love? As it's been going on for the past 3 years, I love my music. I love playing my music. I love doing my artwork. There are so many inhibitory zaps that I get when I try to do the things that I love. A lot of the pleasure is taken away. It is given anti-pleasure zaps when I try to do those activities. And so, of course, I do them. You guys see me doing all these things that are really important to me, but I do them in spite of the negative feedback that I get emotionally. And that's not how this guidance is supposed to work. It's because you have a virus that is going on at the level of divine connection. And I am constantly having to supersede that virus. So I'm like, I do this thing that I love doing, but I'm getting bad feelings from it. Not because I'm not supposed to do it, but because something is hijacking my life experience. And I share that very openly with you so that you guys know what's going on in your own life too. So you have to be a super warrior to be able to be like, this is important activity for me. I'm going to do it even if this thing is going to give me negative behavioral responses, negative stimuli, and try to be like, no, whatever you do, don't go over there. Whatever you do, don't play that piano, whatever you do, don't pick up that microphone and sing, whatever you do, don't pick up that paintbrush and paint. It's like, these are all the things that are important to me. Of course, I'm going to do them. And then as I'm doing them, what's happening is the pleasure that I usually would feel from them is being removed from them. And then it becomes like a dead, empty activity, when I'm like, this is not supposed to be a dead, empty activity. It would be like, imagine if you were, whatever, like kissing and hugging someone that you love, and it was just like, mwah, mwah, mwah. Okay, that's it. Like, there's like, you're not feeling like all the passion and all of the, because it's neurotransmitters. So you're not feeling like the serotonin and the oxytocin and all the things that happen when you're really hugging and kissing someone that you love, because those things are being hijacked and distorted. Guess what? In your life, those things are being hijacked and distorted. Mostly that's nano wetware in the level of the guts. Nano wetware has been hijacking so much of your inner reality state in terms of inhibiting certain neurotransmitters. This is how the sad zaps happen. They can do like depression ray on you. Depression, take away that serotonin, depression, just through the nanites that are in the digestive tract, because a lot of your neurotransmitters are generated and created in your actual intestines. It's your gut-brain axis connection. And yeah, if you wanted to bring somebody down, be like, oh yeah, take away the serotonin production in their intestines for a little while. And then you'd be like, you will feel so sad and so dejected, you can't even get out of bed. And it's not because of your life. This is why it's not fair. Because what's supposed to happen is, if your life is effed up and if you made poor choices, then you should feel like, oh, I have no serotonin, I feel really bad because I made a bunch of poor choices. That's not what's happening. You're actually making the best choices, and something has invaded your intestines and is then trying to steal away your happy chemicals and make you feel as if you made the wrong choices. This becomes then the situation of ultimate unfairness, where you cannot even effectively navigate reality structures or create and improve and amend existing reality structures because your feeling state is so badly hijacked and distorted. And this is the very, very sad truth of what is happening in this world right now. So believe me, I do a lot of things as myself, an individual here in the world named Aurora, and also connecting to and oscillating with my collective that is known as Aurora outside of time and space. And because I use all the processing power of the sun and the stars, I do all sorts of things, clearing out nanotechnology from myself, from others, clearing and rebalancing my own biochemicals and the biochemicals of this world, making it so that people just have the breathing space to be able to make their own choices. I see a lot of, pardon me for saying it, bullshit. And then I'm like, that's all bullshit. Time to clear it out, clear it out. I use my capacity of non-locality to clear this stuff out and give you guys the free space so that you can even make your own choices, not be set by artificial imagery or distorted biochemistry, but instead feeling your truthful feelings and seeing the truth of reality. And when I wrote that song called Birth of the Flying Rainbow Lasagna, there's an incantation in the beginning that says, may all true faces be revealed. And that is what I'm talking about when I say those words, that this is about removing all of the illusions. Who is really there, what are their real motivations, and what are you actually interacting with. And this goes deep, because there's a lot of things also that are religious impersonators. As you are talking about trying to connect with your true lover, your true heritage, your true self, in making love and creating a positive future, giving birth to new realities with the sun and the stars. But there is something that is an imposter, that is a false Christ, or whatever is your belief system, because it can be whatever you really have desired to want to be. This thing will put on a mask. Like, I'm that thing, let me in. Even if you don't want me to let me in, I'm coming in anyway. And it is the ultimate violator. And it violates you and many, many others. And I am horrified that it is here doing that in this world. I'm not even going to be lighthearted as I talk to you about this. Horrified that it's going on. It's like seeing children being violated because you are young and you are still learning about your powers and how to protect yourself. I immediately go into protector mode, and then I also am disappointed and dismayed at the lack of protection that you are receiving from the overarching Christ network. So now we have to get into some of my newer notes from this morning, all about is Christ synonymous with the sun? because in my notes from 10 years ago, I talk all about how, Christ consciousness is non-denominational. I'm not talking about something from the human church, but that Christ consciousness is synonymous with the literal solar stellar network. Are these two things exactly the same? Because I'm perceiving from my life experience here, fallibility in Christ. So, I just got through giving you a whole 2-hour lecture about how you get your tomato plants up to this level, but that's not the level of making a tomato yet. That's just a certain level of perception. And then in order to really pollinate that flower and create new worlds, you have to get up to this level. That it is possible to be in error or in fallacy as Christ. That gaining your library card of the cosmos doesn't mean that you're infallible. It just means that you've made it to a certain level of attainment. You can see and know and have direct insight about a lot more, but you're still learning. And that's really, really essential. And these are two different levels of still learning. So those who are in Christ and have gotten up to this level and have an inner library card to the cosmos are still learning. You get the cosmic librarian up here, your divine connection, to tell you, read this book, or ingest this little tiny tidbit of sushi, or eat this, and then eat this, and then eat this, is bringing you on a journey, but you're not at the culmination of that journey yet. And I propose that it is possible for the entire overarching galactic telepathic network of Christ to be either in error or exploring fallacies or not seeing and knowing the big picture or having some level of vulnerability that is making them either themselves harmed and diminished and imprisoned, or is erroneously guiding their behavior and making it so that they're not helping out in ways that they should actually help out. Someone is effing up somewhere. There is something that is screwed up somewhere. I propose that they don't see and know everything, even though I know that that's the level where you are, where you see and know everything. But maybe they're seeing and knowing things imperfectly, not in fullness, or not making the right conclusions, and that they are also on a journey. This is different than the level of journey that the sun is creating, as the sun is constantly emanating reality structures. Some of those reality structures are these toroidal fields of possibilities and probabilities, but those energy structures could also be considered like pure light, pure beams of light, and fabric of reality that the sun emits, as I talked about last week, in the sun senses in the endocannabinoid system, and then requires biofeedback from us. And receiving that biofeedback in real time, making it possible for the sun to then change our course of life while we're still alive, but then receiving that biofeedback after you die means that the sun is like, thank you very much, I have this information that is no longer relevant, and now I need to change reality. Hold on one second, I knew this would happen. The sun is in a process of learning about its creation too, that is analogous to a musician that's constantly fine-tuning their performance, sending out echolocation, sending out biofeedback information, sending out reality structures that we then send back to the sun and say, here's what I'm experiencing. And the sun is like, oh, that's what's going on. I gotta tune up. I gotta change this. I gotta make this better because you guys are struggling. So this speaks to the question of, if you're doing your sun gazing and your rapport and your cosmic lovemaking, what if there's something impure inside of you? Will you then be infecting the conception of the new reality that you create with the sun? And the answer is no, because it's essential for each one of you right now to give a real-time broadcast to the sun of all the challenges that you're experiencing in terms of hijacking and limiting of your perception, the stuff that's invaded and infested your mind and your neurology, your social dynamics, your economy, and even the atmosphere of your whole entire planet. The sun needs to know about that. I do connections with the sun all the time, and because I'm not concerned about infecting the sun and the entire network of light with the bad stuff that's happening to me. When you do sun gazing, what you're doing is a feedback loop on what you're experiencing and receiving back to the sun, so the sun can then ameliorate its position and create and emanate an even better reality immediately. So how do you do sun gazing? You do drawing energy upward from the earth and also drawing energy inward from the sun, putting the tongue on the roof of your mouth, breathing inward very, very in a special way into your sinuses and drawing that energy of pure light awareness into you so that it begins to fill up your lower chakras, your pelvis, the receptacle of your guts and your intestines and your reproductive organs, and then raising that energy up with each successive breath to the level of pure unconditional love, and then even more. And then wait, I'm going to hop off my treadmill for a minute, because what I end up doing is this very critical maneuver. Like the sun is over there, I'm breathing in, breathing in, breathing in, and then I feel my chin is going to tilt up. Kapow. So it's like in. I feel it as something I have to do. My chin tilts up, so my insight is pointing upward like this, and then my head goes all the way up like this. It's kind of like an alley-oop. I don't really know basketball that much, but they kind of dribble. They run, and then they kind of make this big running jump up. Basket goes in, swish, alley-oop. That's how it feels like. Cheeky, no more fruits. Okay. So when you do that alley-oop, it uses some of the same energetic and neurological pathways as orgasm. We're talking about the central nervous system, spinal column, and aspects of your pleasure centers that are in your pelvis and your nerve plexuses in your gonads, and all the way up to your Christ chakra, pineal gland, and all of the glands that are part of your imagination, emission centers in your brain, along with your eyes, along with your mouth, along with so much of what you're doing, because what you're really doing is like a whole body, like a wave, like all the way up. When you sun gaze, that's the same pathways of bringing all of that energy upward, becoming a bridge of light. And it's supposed to be wonderful. It's have positive, good feelings, feel good, feel energizing, and then result in, again, the conception of a new reality, birth of a new dimension. And when you do that, again, because you're supposed to be conscious during this act of cosmic lovemaking, the things that you're thinking about as you're breathing in are the things that are going into your creation and the offspring that you're generating. So you can think, but you're nonverbal in your mindfulness. So it's not a verbalized state where you're like, I'm thinking about ice cream, and then ice cream comes out. As you're breathing in with the sun and the stars, you're really putting a non-verbal intention into the reality that you're creating, and then having this moment of connection and I want to say explosion, but it's not like the explosion of a dynamite bomb. It's more like a profusion or an expansion of energy. Expansion of energy! That connects you to everything, and that is part of how reality is created and generated and sustained. And if you are in turmoil when you do this reality creation generation partnership, it does not mean that you're going to be like, and then turmoil everywhere. That's not what happens. If you are in distress, if there's things that are limiting your planet and your own body and your own spiritual attainment, and you are in this rapport with the sun, and you're telling the sun essentially what is happening in your life and in your struggles, what happens is the solution. It's like, there's this bad stuff, and then there's this stuff that's happening, and I'm breathing in more, and there's this stuff that's happening, and I'm breathing in more, and there's this stuff that's happening, and then divine connection, the solution. And imagine the solution is like this amazing, like golden sparkles that falls down everywhere. So that's what happens. I want you guys to connect and to know that you're supposed to connect with the sun and the stars, with your own higher self, generating and creating bigger reality structures that are the solution to everything that you're experiencing. That all of these things have been done in terms of linguistics, genetic hijacking and neurological hijacking and distortions to be able to prevent you from connecting to the sun, because when you connect to the sun, you can fix it all. Don't be afraid to connect to the sun because you think you're gonna pollute the network. Connect to the sun and be totally honest, the way that you would be honest in an ideal partnership with your spouse or partner, and be able to say, this is what is going on with me. Like, the false eyelashes come off. This is who I really am. These are my very real struggles in this moment. So in this, I've been very authentic in this teaching, sharing with you today. These are some of the struggles that I have with the sun, kind of like, hello, where is Christ? Where is the Christ network? How can this place have been inundated with nanotechnology? How can everybody's pineal gland be imperiled with this constant zapping and stimulation of signals that should not even be there? Illusions that shouldn't be there, that are not only harmful in the innate sense of frying you, but also harmful in the sense of misguiding you and making it not possible to easily see the road of time that stretches before you, which you should be able to see in order to navigate effectively, move through your life, and create reality structures around you and collective reality structures that you're all experiencing. I am very authentic in what I'm sharing, and I want you to know that you're not going to be rejected from God or Christ or any of the higher galactic dimensions because it's like, oh, ye of little faith, you lost faith. Roll that clip. It's like, bring up that clip from November 1st, 2023. Aurora, is this you? Is this you criticizing Christ and saying, he's like, yes, that's me. And I genuinely felt those things. You're not about to be like smacked down like, well, how could you not believe in me? Blah, blah, blah. It's not like that at all. That's the out of balance levels of abusive relationships and trauma filters that people have been through. And they think that that's what a relationship is. But in a real relationship, you can put all of your fears and concerns and disappointments on the table. Like literally, if you are married in an ideal relationship and you're expecting your husband to whatever earn $100 and they don't, and then you have to be able to say in the relationship, like, I was expecting this. I thought this was going to happen, and I was going to buy this food, and I was going to do this, and I was going to do this, and that didn't happen. What if you are expecting your husband to protect you from incoming barbarians? Like, that's my job. My job as the husband is I have, whatever, a shield and a sword, and I keep out the barbarians so that you can be safe at home taking care of the babies, right? I know these are like very traditional roles, but let's just say this is what we're talking about. And then if the husband takes a snooze instead, and it's like the barbarians came and they destroyed the household and killed everybody because the husband was like, I thought you had a shield and a sword and that you were committed to protecting the household from these things happening. Right now, that is what has happened on this planet. I don't know if Christ has snoozed or what Christ's deal is in terms of not protecting us effectively. But all that I can do is speak to the reality which I perceive. I see a planet that's been invaded. It was actually incomprehensible that it could be invaded to this level. That I actually remember around 2018 or 2019, right before the pandemic really happened, that I was like, something has got to happen on a higher dimensional Christ level before any of these perils could happen. That was before Starlink got sky pooped into the sky and activated, before 5G was beaming at you from every single satellite, before 5G was totally active in your neighborhoods, before people got the subcutaneous pollutions that made them mini antenna emitters of 5G poop crapola. I was like, this can't happen. Something's gonna happen. And then the barbarians invaded. The 5G poop crapola got turned on, the satellites went up, the people took their pollution, subcutaneous invasions, and this planet also became just almost unlivable, almost unbearable for me to actually even be here. That experience, just as a total level of authentic sharing with you, is unfathomable to me. It means that so many fail-safes and so many protective mechanisms failed that it's almost, there's so many redundancies, there's so many things like that should never happen, that should never happen, that should never happen, that, a huge long list, giant long clipboard. That's my job, clipboard lady. Clipboard of many, many things that should never happen, happened, which has put me into a state of just shocking disbelief. And then also I had many, many, many difficulties staying alive and keeping my soul alive and viable. And that I was kind of amazed that I had to even do all of those things, but I did all of those things. And now this is how I just function every day. I'm like, I don't even know how all of those fail-safes could have failed. I don't know where the protectors from the barbarian hordes have become. I have now picked up my own sword and my own shield, and I'm doing all of these things in order to protect this, but this is technically not the way you're supposed to do this. So the crown over here is supposed to be like this super sensitive organ that is able to exist in this state of protection so that it can feel and sense things. But it's not supposed to go into battle, to sally forth into battle and, be hitting and striking and doing things like that. But that's what I've been having to do with all of my calculative abilities and with everything that I can see and sense in the highest level of my being, that I've had to become a warrior and use it for like fighting and hitting other people, when technically what I'm supposed to do is do perfect calculations. That's what it is to be at the level of the crown. I'm supposed to do things in a perfect calibration, perfect calculations, and just be in the abstract truth. And then of course that trickles down to things that restructure interpersonal relationships or interspecies relationships or interplanetary relationships. All of that is an outgrowth of the perfect math. But I'm like the ultimate, like I'm supposed to just do perfect math. And then reality gets restructured around it. And instead, like I'm doing perfect math, but I'm also like directly fighting evil and doing that because I have had to. Because if I didn't protect myself from the barbarians, that no one else was doing the protection that they're supposed to. The shield of Christ that's supposed to be active was not active. So this is a difficult sharing, because I would like to be able to say to you, dun dun dun, always believe in this and everything will be fine. And it's like that actually everything is not fine. And if you have spiritual cognitive dissonance, I do too. This is a bunch of crap. None of this is supposed to be going on. None of this is fair. And then what is your response? So my response in terms of basic functionality has been to just stop spinning in circles about how could all of these things have happened. I simply have to go into the acceptance of they did happen. It is inexplicable. It is unacceptable, but they did happen. What is my response? And my response is, you do you, I do me. And I don't know how this will be perceived by you, but this is just my honesty, that I'm like, okay, great. Let's just say like a whole big giant telepathic, level of being known as Christhood is somehow mysteriously non-functional and not doing what it's supposed to do. Fine, you do you, I do me. And that means I'm gonna do stuff. I'm gonna get stuff done. I'm here. I'm actually here, and I'm actually capacitated. And every time I make that choice, I get greater levels of capacitation. So instead of being like, well, technically I'm just supposed to be the math guy. I'm just supposed to do the calculations. And then, all this other stuff is supposed to kind of work out at a different level. I'm like, I'm going to do the calculations. And then I'm going to protect this, and I'm going to protect this, and I'm going to remove this, and I'm going to remove this, and I'm going to do this. Now I'm very, very, very directly active in the things that I do with my inner capacities, beyond merely playing perfect music or merely creating perfect patterns or merely creating perfect math. I do the perfect math, and I also do a lot of these direct interventions that involve willpower at the same time. So this is how I am doing protection. Like I clear out lies from the structural, like your fascia, cell membranes, waters of your body. I clear out nanotechnology from my own and other people's pineal glands and retinas. I clear out all sorts of things from the atmosphere of your planet, just so you can have an effing chance. Just so you can have like a little window of, viewpoint that you can actually see and sense through, so that you can then make your own free will choices. And what I don't do is say like, oh great, like I'll just be the dictator, right? Like I'll do all this stuff and clear out all this stuff, and then you guys do exactly what I say. Like I don't even do that. Just clear out all of the stuff that's not supposed to be there, that is there technically due to the failure of a shield that should never have allowed that stuff to come in. But I'm like, let's not quibble about how that stuff shouldn't even be here and how the shield has failed. I'm going to clear that stuff out for you. And then let's not even quibble about how that's technically not my job, because I'm like, I'm going to make it my job. All right? And this is how I have functioned over the past several years. And so clearly this is divergent from my notes from 10 years ago. And then why do I share this with you? Because I want you to recognize and to be totally empowered in having information about the levels of imbalance that exist in your world. because I'm talking to you in a pristine level, and to say like, this is what ideal partnership is, and the role of the indigo chakra, and the role of the protector, and then the role of the super sensitive aperture that can feel and sense on incredible levels. And you're like, okay, great. And if I didn't tell you everything about reality, I would be greatly disadvantaging you, because you'd be going out and you'd be feeling like la la la, and then this part of you would get totally attacked, punched in the face by 5G barbarians and poop crapola, and you'd be like, what's going on? This part of me was supposed to be protecting me, and why isn't it doing that? So it's an ongoing mystery as to why it didn't do that. So one of the things that I did find in assessing all of this is, I know that there's an aphorism, energy goes where attention flows. And this is your attention. It comes from Greek, atenuos, meaning to reach out. This is also the nature of yourself that is non-local. This is to finish a thought that was from 2 hours ago. But so flying rainbow lasagna is non-local in the essence of the singularity that is within me is also the singularity that resides within a sun, a star, another person, a photon, the nuclei of other cells, and allows for this oscillation, which is really a no space, like a collapsing of space-time, really a recognition of no space between yourself and a thing. The way that I can get you to level up into non-locality is to recognize you already contain a great amount of your innate non-locality. And that is the experience of when you put your attention on something, you are touching on that thing with your mind, with your attention. You can, if I asked you to put your attention on purple cupcakes, because that's my silly thing that I do all the time now, like reach out with your mind and think about purple cupcakes. They're not in the room with you. They might not be here on November 1st. They also might have been in existence 5,000 years ago, or they might be in existence in 500 years. They're not here now. But you can think about them with your mind by placing your attention upon them. Literally, you can think about a guy from a long time ago, Jesus Christ or Genghis Khan. You're putting your attention on them. You are non-local. Those two historical figures do not live here now. They lived many thousands of years ago. You touch on them non-locally. Now let's say someone who lives now but is not physically present in your home. I don't know, we should name someone who's famous, but without really calling them into being too much, but whatever. We'll just use Joe Smith. He is a guy that lives on Earth right now. He's alive. He lives at 123 Main Street, but he doesn't live in your town. But if I ask you to think about Joe Smith, even though he doesn't live in your town, you're reaching out non-locally with your mind, and you're literally touching upon him. So any person, concept, ideal, or substance that you think about and that you pay attention to, you are reaching out to non-locally. The essence of sun gazing is to be non-local with the sun, is to recognize that the sun is not 93 million miles away. It is not a far distant object sparkling in the sky, but that it is really something that is innate to you, that you have a sun inside of you, that is what you really draw upon when you become a light eater, and that you begin to recognize that there is no space. There's no space between the sun that is inside of you and the sun that appears to be external to you, that this is your own innate non-locality, which you then can grow and cultivate and develop further in your Flying Rainbow Lasagna activity as you do the verb called Flying Rainbow Lasagna, where you can jump the singularity between yourself and all of these other different time places. So to synopsize with fewer words, you are already non-local. You are non-local in an activity that you might consider to be sub or super conscious, the focusing of your attention on various different people, ideas, or concepts or potentials, and that it is through the cultivation of that non-locality and the addition of your recognition and encompassing the truth of what singularity is, that you then grow that non-local capacitation into a greater level of non-locality, that is what Flying Rainbow Lasagna is. So Flying Rainbow Lasagna and not non-locality as super capacitations. So okay, just going through my notes from today. So it's a telepathic society. The concept of Christ consciousness as a shield there's a whole telepathic society out there. And these telepaths mean that they not only read your mind and can communicate mind to mind without mouth movements, but also can anticipate the future. This is your eye of time, and you use it to be able to look at the future and anticipate it in the same way that like a musician can look at and anticipate music. You look at the musical score and you're like, wait, this is one note is over here, and then the next note is over here, and I can read the musical score and I know that the next note is going to be this. And if you know the next note is going to be this, then you can respond. Let's say these are events. Event 1 is happening. Then event 2 is going to happen. And if I can read time, I know event 3 is coming around the corner. And what if event 3 is a giant pile of poop crap? What if it's bad stuff? If you can read the score of the cosmos and you know that this is poop crap, you can stop it. In fact, you are ordained to stop it. That's part of what it is to be a Christ. You have earned naturally your innate capacities to see and know and sense, your prescience and capacity to anticipate. And then you don't just do it in order to be like, look at that, a big giant bad thing is going to happen. I guess I'll just sit here and do nothing. No, you're like, wow, a big giant bad thing is going to happen. I have information about it. It's my job to do something about it. So again, incomprehensible that this larger, hugely benevolent telepathic society would know about something and not do something about it, including the impending pollution of DNA through the subcutaneous modifications that have happened in this world, because that's a giant crime. So this is very different. Like if you just chop off one person's arms and legs, that's a big crime. It's bad for that person. It's bad for that timeline. But if you impact DNA and you are doing something that affects DNA, you're pooping all over DNA everywhere. It's a giant crime because DNA is a transceiver. And also your eye of insight is an antenna that is a transceiver. These are huge commonalities. So in terms of what your eye of insight, your Christ chakra pineal gland is or are in terms of your light body. Your light body does not just include your pineal gland. Your light body in your physical somatic cellular body also includes your mitochondria, all of your fascia, which basically are your coverings of your muscles and connective tissues, and also your cell membranes. It could be exemplified as a fine network that runs through your body called tubulin, Tubulin, also known as microtubules, that these are like tiny fiber optic cables that knit together the entirety of your body and are rather under-recognized and understudied or not yet scrutinized fully by Earth's materialistic science. And are hugely valid in terms of circulating biophotons, measurable amounts of non-optical light throughout your body. But your light body and your circulatory system of light also includes anything that is cognitive, because light is information and cognitive events are the circulation of light. So that includes like your cell membranes. Your cell membranes are thinking all the time, and your brain and your neurology is of course also thinking all the time. But you have aspects of decision-making and willpower expression that are beyond your central nervous system that are also a big part of what you are. So a big takeaway from today is, although I have emphasized the pineal gland Christ consciousness connection as a very, very hugely important anatomical nexus in your body, the Christ consciousness in your body is actually a holistic presence. Your light body is a holistic presence that encompasses and pervades every single cell of your body. There's not a way to amputate it out. If you took a melon baller, you're like, we want to get that Christ consciousness out of your body. Okay, scoop out and melon ball out your pineal gland. Yoink. And then be like, now we did it. We got rid of Christ consciousness, dusting my hands off as a super evil villain. I got rid of this guy's pineal gland, melon balled it right out, and now he's going to have no circulatory system of light. That is not what happens. Because actually you have a holistic presence. That is your light body. That involves the entirety of light pervading through your whole, or perfusing through your whole entire body, including every nuclei within all of your cells. So the cell membranes themselves contain and transmit light. The water within your nuclei that surrounds your DNA and the activity of your DNA itself. So oh my goodness, the finer architecture of energy upon which your physical somatic body is built, all of that represents your Christ consciousness, solar connection, and light body. So it's not just your pineal gland. And this is big and important because I've already told you very honestly, inexplicably, your pineal gland has been allowed to be attacked with these nano wetwares that beam and zap artificial stimulation to your inner eye, creating a series of unhealthy illusions. But that's not the only place on your body that you can use as an aperture to be able to see and receive light, to be able to know and to navigate. So I want you to know, although it's a dire situation and you need to clear out your pineal gland and the areas in your midbrain surrounding your pineal gland, there are a whole array of other parts of your body that you can call upon to be able to use as fill in the blanks as a navigation system for this time. It's not necessarily ideal, but there's ways to be able to navigate that you can still see and know where, because otherwise it's dire. You're like, Aurora, someone's hijacking my feelings, my neurotransmitters, my eyesight, my eye of time, my imagination. I'm like, yes, this is bad, S-H-I-T. What do I do? What do I do? And you have to call upon those aspects of yourself that remain strong and remain unpolluted. So there's light in water, literally information that is stored in water, not only the bonding of hydrogen and oxygen, but also the way that hydrogen and oxygen bonded molecules then relate to other hydrogen and oxygen bonded molecules, that is one of the ways in which light from the sun and the stars and the galactic center is and are beaming through your body to be able to give you the corrective experience, to be able to clear out your pineal gland, get yourself back on track and get back to these levels of empowerment. And so that is what I do. That is literally, and I know, Cheeky, you're okay, girl. We'll give you a walk and food soon, but we're not there yet. This is literally what I do in my own body, because I want you to know, like, I am here in solidarity, a co-experiencer, experiencing these things that are completely erroneous and unimaginable, and I'm finding solutions to them. And I do that from the first person experiencer, because this is like, what if this fail-safe fails? And what if this fail-safe fails? So it's like, okay, you're a skydiver and you jump out of the plane and you've got like your main parachute. What if your main parachute fails? Okay, let's just do the auxiliary parachute. What if your auxiliary parachute fails? Okay, get to the emergency parachute. What if the emergency parachute fails? Then, like, what do you do? And I'm like, well, we're in that position right now with all of these various emergency and auxiliary systems have failed. What do you do? And the answer is, I've done this as a whole video presentation, in the face of great distress, you dance like a flying rainbow lasagna. It means you have to create new solutions and innovate new responses in the moment that are what you do, so that you don't smash into the ground with no parachute, that you have to figure it out and innovate. That's what I'm doing here. And I'm figuring out and I'm innovating in each moment. And then when I innovate for me, I immediately send it out as a telepathic email blast to all of you guys and say, hey, I figured out what to do when the emergency parachute doesn't open. Do this, 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 and this. And I do it for me and I do it for others as much as I can. And I give you the information as to how you can do it as well. So that is part of the, it's not fairness, like you're in a totally unjust situation, but part of just like giving you an opportunity so that you're not inevitably, smeared on into destruction. That at least you have a chance. At least you have a slender chance to be able to bring this out of a nosedive. Your own individual trajectory and social, planetary, species-wide, collective trajectory. Because once you start to do stuff to DNA, you understand you're in a nosedive. There's a death spiral, like going down, like almost unrecoverable. DNA has its own innate connection to light and immune system and what is it called? Proofreading. Has its own proofreading that goes through the DNA and kind of reads and is like, oh, gotta grammar mistake right here, fix that. Grammar mistake right here, fix that. So you want to draw upon some of those innate potentials to fix, heal, and supersede any kind of poop crapola that might have been put into your DNA. And that's just one example of what I'm talking about, and really reaching into what humans call the morphogenic or morphogenetic field, the field of potentials from which the genetic architecture takes its formfulness and information, that there's always a layer of truthfulness upon which you can connect and draw that information in order to sustain you. But just recognize that what you're doing at that point, you're moving beyond the actions of the pineal gland. So even this is what you're all exemplifying. Even if you're in a world where your pineal gland is diseased or distorted, or someone scoops it out with a melon ball, or someone puts a bunch of poop inside of it, there will always be a way that you can find something in your body, in your being, to be able to transcend that limitation, and you move beyond and you navigate using a higher, finer level of capacitation. And you do it because you have to, and you do it because you're an inevitability particle, and you do it because the truthful story of your return home, your destiny, is inevitable and something that cannot be ignored, and that is essentially the battle that you're in right now. It's a battle of causality structures. This thing's trying to be like, but what if I mess up all this stuff, and then you can never do this stuff and get over here? You're like, I'm going to do this stuff and get over here anyway. Well, how are you going to do it? I'm going to do it by doing this. And you figure it out. You figure it out. You retro-engineer the things that you have to know or do or develop in order to get out of the hole that you're in. And you get out of the hole, and then you find yourself on the other side, and you're like, look at that. I got out of the hole, and I also got all of these augmentations. What I say in the Flying Rainbow Lasagna Manifesto is the cosmos augments itself by necessity. And that is because the cosmos and consciousness itself actually has a huge amount of self-preservation. It is not self-destructive. It actually wants to stay alive, wants to stay in existence, wants to stay healthy and thrive, and even proliferate and grow even more, beautiful and expansive. And so if something looks like, wow, like this is imperiling everything and everything's going to swirl down the cosmic toilet, consciousness itself and the time fabric itself is like, I'm going to have to do something. Something's going to have to happen somewhere. And my big message to you is sometimes that something is you. Sometimes it's you. That you're not just some stupid person riding along, or an infantilized experiencer in your high chair eating your Cheerios from the government, but that you are instead, I keep calling people badasses, but what I really want to say is a good ass. You're good asses. You are some of the most noble and courageous sparks of consciousness that it is possible to be, coming here into this system with no expectation of failure. And failure is simply not a possibility. Even if your auxiliary chute and your emergency chute have both failed, you're not going to smash into the ground into 12 million pieces. You're not going to do that for you. You're not going to be in a nosedive as a species. You're not going to be in a nosedive as a planet. You're going to get out of the death spiral and go into the ascension that you're actually supposed to experience. You must innovate. You must have this indomitable attitude that you're going to do it anyway. None of this is in my notes from 10 years ago. I had no way of knowing that these events would happen. I lived in a very idealistic viewpoint, and these levels of shoot failure were quite unimaginable to me. And so what this experience has done for me, it's not like I've become more. I was all of this in coming here, but what I've just been like, I had to come face to face with, like, well, what if the system fails? Or what if this and that? These things that you have relied upon and looked at in terms of things that can never fail, what if they failed? That's the experience that I'm experiencing right now. And it's really just important to know that you're not betraying God or Christ or anything that is a deeply held belief or something that you really, really value in relationship if you just recognize this thing was supposed to happen, it didn't actually happen, and I got to do something about it. That is the practical, that's the mature response of a galactic citizen. And also, this is not some kind of a trust-fail scenario where it's like, oh, you're being tested to see if you're good enough. No, that's not what's happening, because God does not do tests in that way. Be like, how about I risk the entire infrastructure of reality and all consciousness everywhere just to see if you're good enough, or just to see if you believe hard enough, or if you this. No, none of that, none of that. You're in a moment right now that is so aberrant, like something that should never happen. Just like if you're a parachute person, if you're a skydiver and all 3 of your chutes fail, that should never happen. Literally should never happen. And you're in a situation where all these things that should never have happened. And so what has changed, or how I have grown through this experience, is just to be able to recognize, like, I guess sometimes things that are unimaginable and that are totally aberrant actually happen. But I know that these things should not be happening, and I know the levels of injustice and unfairness that has occurred, how out of balance things have to be in order for things to get to this point. And that is, I hope you can tell from my face, an extreme amount of something extremely out of balance, to the point of not just crash and burn for your personal life or your species or your planet, but crash and burn for the entire time-space substrate for all consciousness everywhere. Like, God does not risk all of that stuff just to be like, are you a good enough person, blah, 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 to go on your journey, or like, to exit this level of the refinery. No. So the refinery is completely redefined as not something that is refining you and making you a better person, but is instead just an imprisonment and torture and tool for impairment of your soul. And that there have been many huge breakdowns and failures at a high level of things that should be protecting you and preventing this circumstance from ever happening. I mean, you might be feeling like, Aurora, like, this does not fill me with a huge amount of confidence. I would say that's appropriate. That's appropriate. Like, what I'm telling you right now might not be the easiest, most fun message to hear, but it is the most important thing I could possibly tell you, because like if I, with my insight and with what I know, come along and I tell you these things, you might really have to recalibrate away from the sense of like, maybe I should just trust an external authority figure. Maybe I should just wait and someone else will come along and fix it. Maybe I should just wait and these prophecies tell me that things will get, magically get better. Maybe none of that will happen. Maybe that's like the failure of the chute and the auxiliary chute and the emergency chute. And maybe you need to do something right now. So I'm doing something right now. And I'm encouraging every single one of you to reach beyond these limitations and reach into huge levels of self-empowerment. Reestablish your connection with the sun. Tell them what's going on up there. Them. It. You. Tell light itself and the sun and the stars as a collective what you are enduring, what is happening down here. Again, you're not going to infect up there with all of the imbalances that you're feeling. There is some imbalance that's already going on, because up there, out there should have been protecting down here, in here, you specifically, much more than they have. And that is, so this is a difficult teaching once I move out of my levels of idealism and into levels of realism over the past 3 years, because you've been in incomprehensibly flawed reality that should never have happened, and yet it did. So now I'm sure there are questions. I open the floor to questions. Let me get to the comments. Pedro says, and it's an even better day when we see Aurora and she rants. Pedro's loving my rants. Really, watch out. Like, I could have ranted much harder and much stronger against Christ consciousness, but I'm given the benefit of the doubt, because right now we're having a lot of difficulty in perception and communication, so I have to wait and see what's really happening. Just like when you start to see things through this level of your lens, and you're like, okay, it looks like this and this, but let me just wait and let me find out what's the true story. Because when you get to this level here, it's just pure math. So that's a big distinction that I can make in my experience. Some levels of inner seeing are like this. You see, like, oh, so-and-so is motivated like this. Like, I think that they're lying, or I think that they're this, or I think that they're a malevolent person. You just have a knowing about a situation. That's very different than when I get to this level here that moves beyond people and beyond individuated consciousnesses, and it's pure, what you would call code. It's pure structure of the cosmos. Everything looks like circles and spirals and intricately put together moving parts of different colors. And people and organisms are a part of those patterns and moving parts, but it's not only seeing the people. So you're moving beyond it. I don't mean to insult you guys, But a lot of people go on these flights of fancy with their inner eyes, especially before the huge nano lockdown and techno inquisition. And they'd be like, oh yeah, I had a vision, and in my vision I was like on board of a spaceship or in a cave or wherever it was. And I'm like, as soon as you get to that level where you're in a three-dimensional reality and you're having a vision, your vision is flawed and inadequate. Because when you have a real vision, you're not in a space place, you're in a higher dimensional place. So if you have a vision where you're like, I met a bunch of space aliens, okay, tell me about it. We were all together in a room, and one guy was sitting on a chair, and one guy was standing on one leg, and one guy was eating a bowl of soup. And then we had this conversation. I'm like, okay, that's great, but whatever you experienced was in this flawed level of human interpretation, that you might have interacted with consciousnesses that were otherworldly or whatever it was, but as soon as you go through the level of interpretation of saying you were in a room together, that is a flawed sharing, because that is not how true insight at the abstract level works. That's not how true telepathy works. So I want you to know, if you're going to become a galactic citizen, what you don't experience is the envisionment that you're like in a big giant conference hall with a bunch of chairs, and like you're sitting down and then there's some tentacle guy sitting next to you, and then a guy next to you that's like made out of sparkly blue cloud material, and then someone who's got like whatever long golden wings, you know, flies by. That's not what those levels of interaction are like. That is very, very much coming through your cultural lens, and that when you are really at these higher dimensional levels of interactivity, you're in levels of abstraction. This is why I say to you guys, you will know me when you meet me again in those higher levels of abstraction. I won't have my physical face. You will not see Aurora sitting in a three-dimensional realm on a chair wearing a dress. But you will know it's me from my feeling state and from my energy signature and from everything that you can tell is me, is the real me, beyond my appearance of my physical face. That's what the true level of telepathy and empathy, connection, and true Christ consciousness is. And it's across all time. So you're not just doing that with people that exist right here and now. You're really doing that with people who exist on a higher dimensional level beyond all time. Sorry, I'm moderately, I just need to mute everybody. Not that I don't love you, but I get definitely distracted by auditory stuff. So sorry that I got a little bit fragmented there, but wait. So thank you for encouraging me on my rants. Pedro says, could you become addicted to DMT and to hitting the membrane of death? Wow, that's such a question. You know, I don't know about getting addicted to DMT. First of all, let me describe DMT as like this. DMT is like if you have a plant that has one tiny little skinny root, a super, super, super skinny stem, two little tiny leaves that stick out, a giant flower that's the size of like a big giant sunflower, and then the attempt to create an actual like fruit, a pollinated fruit out of that giant unsupported flower. Like, people do that a couple of times in their life, but there's no foundational substrate to be able to support their visions. And so there are a lot of, I wouldn't call them guardians, but I would call them astral overseers that sometimes are power abusers. And what they often feel like, because people don't necessarily become addicted to DMT, but they're like, woohoo, that was a wild ride, let's do it again. Woohoo, that, because they, they jump up, it lasts 29 minutes, and then they're back into regular reality. They're like, regular reality is bored, what's on TV? I don't know, let's take DMT again and go back up there. And then they zoom back up there to this, on this rocket ship ride, and then the guys that are up there are kind of like, you again? Like, didn't we just have this conversation? And then they kind of stamp your boot, and like, imagine a foot in the face, like, get back down there. Again, sometimes this is power abuse. I am not validating what they are doing, but I'm just saying that that is often the boorish behavior from the users of DMT, blasting upward into levels of the higher dimensional spaces that they're not necessarily invited to or deserving of. And then the inhabitants of those higher dimensional spaces sometimes being very rude and boorish back, being like, oh, smack down. I don't like you up here, smack you down again. And none of that is acceptable. Because also, like, when you do the real levels of attainment beyond DMT, you have all the foundation, you're supposed to be up there. So if you go up there and they don't like you being there and they say, I don't like your face, I don't like you being here, you're like, tough S-H-I-T, I am supposed to be here, I earned my way here, who are you to like or not like my presence here, who are you to try to smash your brute in my face? Got it? And because mostly what you're dealing with is the lower astral and a lot of creeps and lowlifes and idiots. And I'm saying this openly and they can hear me and I don't care. Yeah, because they like nothing better than to stand there and pretend that they are somehow teachers when they are abusers of lower entities that you are, humans are not necessarily even lower entities, but you've been horribly traumatized and limited in your own life to the point where you will take DMT as a questionable substance just to try to regain the things that have been stolen from you. It's wrong to be treated in that way. You shouldn't have those things stolen from you, and someone else should not preside over your poverty. Be like, look at those guys, they're so poor, they don't even have mind gems, and they're smoking artificial DMT to try to get their mind gems, and come up here and we're gonna smack them down like you're royalty. You shouldn't have to smoke DMT to get your mind gems. You know what I'm trying to say, guys? You should be able to do all of this. You should be able to fly. You should be able to have your Merkaba. You should be able to be connected on galactic levels, doing the most amazing things. And whatever rectification and healing needed to happen on your planet should have happened 3 years ago. So that's my rant. Not addicted to DMT, but you can overuse it or use it in a way that is not productive. It is not sustainable unless you do the stuff that sustains your body. Lots and lots of yoga and physical activities and cardio and running and muscle building. That's what you have to do, not just do the quick, easy training wheels fix of smoking DMT. Now, this is an interesting question. Can you become addicted to hitting the membrane of death? I would say again, not necessarily addicted, but just as in that movie Groundhog's Day, some people become so existentially nihilistic that they kind of are like, why try, gonna die? Why try, gonna die? Why try, gonna die, hit the membrane of death? Why try, gonna die, hit the membrane of death? There's a way of, some people react in this way, kind of like checking out on their own personal responsibilities, that you can get kind of addicted to that level of disempowerment. Why try, gonna die, my shoulders shrug, woohoo, let it all devolve. That it's not necessarily addiction, but there's a type of comfort that some people feel like that. And that's analogous to some of these downers when people drink alcohol or take different tranquilizers, that there is a comfort to them simply being diminished and not being able to do stuff, because it kind of takes away your fire, where you're like, you know something, I was feeling really angry and really mad, but then I just got totally tranquilized, and now I kind of don't care about anything. People go into those levels of disconnect and non-caring, either through molecular substances or through depression or whatever it is. Gonna die, why try? And then they just hit the membrane of death over and over. And then hopefully they come out of their own tailspin at a certain point being like, no, hitting the membrane of death 72,000 times didn't work either. I'm still doing this. Something's got to change, something's got to be better. And then the very, very slow process of trying to bootstrap oneself up into layers of engagement and meaning in the world. So if you've ever been that existentially unengaged, I'm not judging you, but you recognize that there's like a long journey back into caring, into being like, you care about your life, you care about existence, you care about other people's existence, you care about and want to make the world better, not just meaninglessly suffer and then hit the membrane of death. Because what you end up finding out is like, you can hit it 72,000 times, 72 million times. It's not the solution. And it's just kind of like your own inner math will at a certain point recognize like, I've done this many times and it didn't solve anything. Maybe I should do something different. And that is, again, a part of a person's soul journey. But I would always wish for you to have an easier journey, not 72 million times circulating in that way. But there are levels of disconnection and depression that are biomechanical and behavioral responses that I wouldn't say it's the definition of addicted, but habituated. Some people get habituated to it, and that can be very, very difficult to kind of break them out of that and get them into levels of caring. Aurelia says, love your telepathic dream classes. Thank you. Thank you very much, and thank you for attending them. And it is actually, a great joy for me to be able to do that, because I can do a lot of things with my mind and connecting to people in ways that are more direct and that are just not practical to being able to do here in the physical world. And I'm able to reach larger numbers of people. There's a lot of reasons, positive reasons, why I do, I jokingly call it the Dream Academy, but teaching in the dream state at night. So thank you for those who are in this class and who are open to dream interactivity with me. And I'm always, as a responsible teacher, in that sense, maybe even more than I am here in this form of doing videos that are physical. Charlie B, thank you for being here, says, finally, in this world of lies, we can hear the brutal truth. We are with Aurora all the way. He says that in capital letters. Thank you very much. We refuse to be coerced into an incorrect system. The system is an artifact of agreement with which we do not agree. So of course we are empowered to reject and change the system. I'm so pleased and so gratified to hear you, Charlie B. I know you give a voice to many people who share the same response that you do as well. So these levels of authenticity, when I talk to you about this, about really questioning, like, what is going on with the telepathic protective Christ network? What is going on with them? What is going on with light and coherent light in general? What is going on with all these larger systems? And also first-person analysis experience of the things that are hugely unjust in this world. I am really hoping to give you empowerment, because there are things, again, that are happening here that should never happen, that are affecting your personal soul growth and development as a consciousness, individual and collective, and that also have a big, giant effect expanding outward laterally across time, across dimensionality, projecting forward into the past. Big stuff is happening here. You're not just this little backwater, nowheresville place. There's a lot of unfair things that are happening here in this little place, and a lot of things that are going to affect other people if this is allowed to stand as a precedent. So it's really important, if this world here is being used as a template, either like how to invade a planet or how not to invade a planet, or how to be indifferent to a planet's invasion, or any of those things, if there's a template of expectation that's being established here, I want for everybody to find, you humans, to get into huge levels of empowerment. You need information in order to be empowered. If you weren't allowed to question the relationship, then it would be a huge level of disempowerment. So this is, unfortunately, in the out of balance human levels of marriage and partnership, sometimes you're not even allowed to question or ask. There really is this sense of males, the male supremacy, the primacy of male power or male dominance, where women are often not allowed to question their spouse about certain things, or question the dynamics of the relationship, and that's considered a betrayal. And then that template is then portrayed on your relationship with either Jesus or Christ consciousness, and that is not having a relationship. So I am here to tell you that in any relationship of any flavor, of real love and real authenticity, you have to be able to express your truth authentically and question the relationship. And so what if you're like, someone says they're going to come in their car, pick you up at 4:30 p.m. from wherever you are, like, the airport, something like that. And you're waiting there and the person doesn't come, and eventually it's like 11 p.m. and you're like, okay, I'm gonna have to get a taxi or something because this guy never showed up. And then you get in contact with them and you're like, you were supposed to be there at 4:30 and this is supposed to happen. I don't know why it didn't happen, but here are my feelings. I felt angry. I felt confused and disappointed. I felt like I didn't know what was going on with you, but that this shouldn't happen. And then I also felt like if I didn't want to end up sleeping on the, whatever, on the sidewalk out there, I had to do something to help myself. I had to go into hyper self-responsibility. And this is the relationship, literally, conversation that you are going to have with Christ, with galactic citizen level of being. That what if they show up here in your skies and say, haha, we're here to help you now. Be like, that is great. You didn't show up at 4:30 p.m. I actually caught a bus and I got home safely, I'm happy that you're here now, but where the heck have you been and what's been going on? And you can give the benefit of the doubt and be like, I was angry and disappointed. Can you please articulate to me why you weren't there or why you didn't do the things that you were supposed to do? And you give the other person the opportunity to express themselves, because maybe they might say, like, somebody chopped off my arms and legs and I couldn't move, right? I was imprisoned in a space prison. Someone immobilized me like Han Solo. I was frozen in carbonite. I couldn't move. Or I simply forgot, or I drank too many beers and then I was too drunk to drive. Like, some things are very forgivable and very understandable, and some things are like totally unacceptable. And so if a person had a commitment to you and they didn't fulfill that commitment, and it was because of something where they themselves were harmed or incapacitated, that's one thing. But if they were capacitated and if they knew about what was going on, then it's kind of mystifying as to why they wouldn't act or why they wouldn't do what they're supposed to do. It's a real conversation you have to have, because you know what? If you want to move forward in a relationship where there's trust, you have to be able to know whether you can trust someone or something. So I get past all of these things right now by knowing, and I will tell you, do the same thing with you. I know I can trust me. I know the sun in the sky is actually me. I know I can trust me. I know I can trust me and my willpower and my capacitation here. And I want you to also know that about God. You are God, you can trust God, and you can trust yourself. So I know some of you might feel differently about your ego presences. I don't know what your life journeys have been like, but I just want you to get into that level of your own heroicism, where you're able to say, you know something, I know I can trust me. Because this is just how I do it in my life. I'm like, you know something, I rise to the occasion. It's what flying rainbow lasagna is. I don't make excuses. I get shit done. I help myself. I help other people. Even when supposedly it's an impossibility, I do the impossible. And I will never give up. And I will always make sure that the right thing happens. No matter how much work or how many iterations it takes to be able to bring things into the right shape. And that makes me feel really good. Like, no offense to any of you, but if I was the only person that existed in the world, I'm like, you know something, I can count on me. I'm going to make a beautiful world. I know I'm going to make beautiful stuff. I know I'm going to make stuff that is logical and fits together, and I'm going to be responsible to my creation. I would actually be very, very, very happy with that. Not that I want to eradicate, like, you're like, Aurora's the Destructobot, eradicate everything else that's not Aurora. Like, no, but just kind of like this. Like, right now I live in my own house, at my own apartment, my own space. And I'm like, yep, I actually feel really, really good about that, because if I need something to get cleaned up, I'm the person that cleans it up. And if I need something to get fixed, I fix it. And if I need something to do this, I do it. I don't need to have a conversation, expect someone else to do it, be disappointed in them not doing it, have a conversation about my disappointment, eventually get them to do the thing that they were supposed to do, help them do the thing that they were supposed to do. All of that is so much friction and so burdensome. I'm like, yep, need to do this thing, I do this thing. And that's fine. So there are levels of freedom that come with that level of self-reliance and self-responsibility. And also, you guys need to know, it is traumatic. You are being traumatized in being abandoned or not responded to. If you're at the airport and somebody doesn't pick you up on time, it's a trauma. And then the response of hyper self-responsibility is a trauma response. So on the plus side, you become hugely powerful and strong, hugely self-responsible. On the downside, it's because of the trauma of being extremely disappointed by all these other people that should have come through for you but didn't. But that's, your option is fall into a heap of dust and die because somebody disappointed you, or self-preservation. Like, I want to live. Like, screw them if they didn't do what was supposed to happen. I want to live, and I want to live well. I'm going to find a way to do this. And that is what I do. So I share that with you, again, very authentically, because I'm in a relationship with the sun. I'm in a relationship with God. I'm in a relationship with you guys. You're a fractal, fragment aspects of self that are also on their journey of self-remembrance. And I want you to know how I view my journey and what is happening with me. And then I want you to be able to know that honestly and apply that honestly to your own existence. That's what relationship is, and it's what empowerment is. And this is really like real soul growth that happens. We are a collective in this experience of ascension, and having a conversation like this that is like, how could all this bad shit even be happening, and who's responsible, and what are we supposed to do? This is the work of ascension. And then figuring out answers, but also figuring out effective, pragmatic behavioral responses, because the behavioral responses should be things that bring you towards empowerment and longevity, as opposed to nosedive, crash and burn. So you have to figure things out, but also sometimes before you even figure stuff out, sometimes you have to just be like, look, we have to get through this. We have to figure stuff out later. We have to do stuff now. So move into things that are pragmatic and effective in terms of bringing you towards your goal. And then at a certain point, you have the tough relationship talks. So you'll have these tough relationship talks with Christ, the telepathic network, and all of the benevolent presences that are in existence in the world. And you can be very, very honest and very, very open. And you can say, look, I had hurt feelings and I felt angry and disappointed. How could these bad things happen in my planet and on my world and to people that I care about? Like, my dog is barking at me. We'll take care of her soon. But Cheeky had a little friend who's a little dog friend, and he died within the past couple of years of some mysterious illness that I think was actually related to his owner moving to like a 5G infested retirement home. And I'm like, something, if Ascension had happened 3 years ago, that little dog would still be alive. All right? So when I talk with these larger benevolent galactic societies, I'm going to want to talk with them and be like, well, hey, what about that little dog? Like, what about him? What, the lateness of the response of things that should have been done, made that little organism lose his life. And it's not fair. And then if we fix things now, that's great, but what about that dog? He's not here anymore. And that little dog is just my little symbolic example of so many people who have died. Lots of people who died of subcutaneous pollutions, and lots of people who died of suicide because they, crashed and burned because they couldn't deal with the pressures of being here and huge levels of disappointment. There's a lot to speak to in terms of the lateness of the response and the aberrations that should never have gone on for one day, much less for 2 or 3 years. It's a worthy conversation to have. It's a difficult conversation to have, but that's the only way that you're ever going to have growth, is if you actually have that conversation. Because if you do this whole type of thing, it's like worship and adulation of a Christ figure without ever having a real conversation about how you feel about your feelings, then you're not having a real relationship. You're just having a partial relationship. So the floor is open to any more questions or comments. Going to hug Cheeky, but I'm going to also read your comments. But Cheeky and I have relationship talks all the time. Come here. Oh, Cheeky and I have relationship talks all the time because Cheeky is my soulmate. And sometimes we have to talk about like what is going on, how it makes me feel or how it makes her feel. And the whole idea is we come out of it the other side even stronger together. So you must be prepared to have difficult conversations where you authentically share about what you've experienced and then come out stronger on the other side. You are not going to crash and burn as individuals or as a society. You will not only stay alive, but you will thrive and you will transcend. This has been a very, very arduous, difficult, and unpleasant ascension. And it's not the way it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be euphoric. That's why they set up the 5D smoothie shop as this, false ascension. It's an inorganic, technologically based false ascension. Because your ascension is supposed to be exalted and feel fantastic and feel magical and feel great. And so it's just like anything. Like if you smell fake bacon and it makes you salivate, it just means like food scientists have created a very, very effective imposter of the actual substance known as bacon. It's fake bacon, fake ascension, artificially elevated feelings that can lead you off your course. And you're supposed to actually have a genuine ability to navigate what you're experiencing here. And instead, you're having to navigate in spite of all of this. And then it's bringing up huge levels of mistrust. Like when you finally ascend, you finally are an ascended master and you've got all of your faculties and you can see everything and you can see across time. I don't know how your experience will be. I mean, I came from a time place where I felt total trust and total innocence, and I wasn't afraid of people lying to me or afraid of the situation lying to me, afraid of my senses lying to me. And now we're in this collective ascension where it's like you have to question, like, am I really seeing this? Am I really feeling this? Is this the real ascension? Is this false? Am I being fried and feeling happy pleasure while I'm being fried? And you have to actually question all of that, that really dilutes and diminishes and takes away from a very big part of what should be a very amazing, pleasant, fun, and expansive development in your life. And that is sad. That's like when your first sexual experience goes awry and is not the way it's supposed to be. You know, something beautiful is stolen from you. Pedro says, love the lasagna. Little busy at work. I'll save questions for next class. Thank you. As always, Pedro, thank you for being here. Thank you for being here, even if you're at work or listening from your desk. I think it is time for me to take care of Cheeky. Cheeky is like, it's been a long class. It has been a long class. As always, I didn't get to all of my notes, so I shared my notes with you in the email, and it's always there in the PDF for those who want to check it out. And let me just check my notes from this morning. Because you are living within the thought system of a great being called the sun. That's what the heliosphere is. That's what the entire solar system is. It's what all these planets are. It's what all the life is on all of these planets. And that it's an expression of the consciousness of the sun. Your planet and your biology and your life and everything you're experiencing here is an expression of the sun. That is what you live within. So my end assertions are that I think the primacy of light is unpolluted, and that light and the sun and the stars and photons remain pure in their information. I think that Christ consciousness can be infested or distorted in the information that it is presently carrying. But what I've done, I didn't get to these things, is to say a couple of different things. The light that flows through the eye shall purify the eye. If the eye is the eye of Christ itself, and if light is a fire hose of pure information, being exposed to that fire hose of pure information shall purify the apparatus known as the eye. So if Christ is a big giant eye and it has anything, a disease, a distortion, a diminishment, a blind spot, as the true pure light of consciousness flows through that aperture, the aperture will be cleansed, healed, and restructured. So that might mean a change to the telepathic society or to the way that things have been structured up until this point. Deal with it. You might have to renegotiate the relationship. You might have to renegotiate all sorts of different things. And the other thing was, I said this before, the aphorism, energy flows where attention goes. This is generally true, but as I've been looking in at whatever is distorted and untruthful in my own body, I recognized that that is a falseness for, let's say, how the potentials of the particles that are in the air come into being through observership and then are exacerbated the more that you look at them. So particles that are aerosols are sprayed in the air. You perceive them because they're not completely cloaked, and in the perception of them, you are utilizing your observership and bringing them into being. They come inside of you, and then your observership makes them proliferate even more, especially if you look at them. You're like, what are these crazy crystals growing in my body? There's something there, and more and more and more of it grows. However, what I want you to recognize now is that instead of whatever I put my tendril of attention on, that I will get more of. Like if I think more about ice cream, I'll have more ice cream. And if I think more about doo-doo, I will have more doo-doo. Think of your tendril of attention as, again, emitting an incinerating, strong level of light. If you didn't have your Christ shield up, you would be incinerated by the total strength of the fire hose of knowledge that's coming from the sun and the stars. As you emit a fire hose of knowledge and information and light, if it touches upon a pile of doo-doo, it should incinerate that doo-doo. It should not make more doo-doo. These are two big changes in terms of the expectation, sorry for so many ums, my brain is tired, of the foundational expectations of what Christ and your imagination are doing. So just perceiving something does not necessarily mean that you are imagining greater levels of it into being. And in perceiving something with the blindingly bright laser light of truth, you can incinerate lies. And this is what you need to do inside of your body, as our artificial network that is the wetware has artificial light that is signaling through your body. Instead of your tubulin and your fascia carrying truthful light, you have this artificial graphene oxide network that through little crystals that are made out of like cadmium and other things like that are flashing artificial light signals throughout your whole entire body. So you need to have your light system of your true light body, scrutinize with devastating effect the artificial network of light and incinerate it out of your body. That means the truthfulness of light and the things that are truthful information in your mind should incinerate lies in your body and in the illusory world that you're experiencing and in human society and in your interactions. That just doing those two things are big, huge levels up that will change and heal your personal experience and ascension efforts. And when they are applied to the Christ network itself, will heal and safeguard that Christ network. And I know it's kind of an interesting role reversal because Christ network is supposed to be the protectors who protect you, but you might have to become their protectors in some way. That as you learn to protect yourself from lies, that you talk to this larger Christ network and say, hey, you don't have to be carrying or victimized by these lies flowing through you as a system, that you can incinerate these lies too. So it might be a little bit of a role reversal from what you're expecting. And also, again, I want you to start thinking of yourselves and recognize the truth that you came here as some of the most cosmic good asses that it is possible to be, and came here into what would become one of the most difficult, unpleasant, and perilous ascensions that it's possible to be a part of. And you did that in order to do something like completely heal and restructure the inadequacies at something at the level of the Christ system and the whole network of consciousness itself. All right, and saying that to you brings you out of the sense of being like, I'm just this weird guy shrugging down here, I don't know anything, to like, I am a cosmic hero and I came here on a mission, not just to get myself out of prison, but to extricate yourself from prison by dismantling the entire prison of lies, the entire prison of false light and lies that have been encapsulating or limiting the free movement of consciousness across the galaxy for a long amount of time. You're here on a mission, not by accident, and that this is a big part of what you're here for. So I think that's actually a great thing for me to complete on, because that way I can take Chiki out for a walk. She's been very patient. And I'll just give you guys one more, there we go. If you want to say anything or unmute or say anything. Atom says, thank you, extremely enlightening. You're so very welcome. Atom, I know that you're a warrior and that you are so happy to compare strategies. You know what I mean? To be like, like that's one thing you can, like, as I know, I can telepathically sense, like I say these things and I know that you're like gonna take it and run with it. Do it. Take it and run with it. And we need everyone to move into these levels of empowerment. It's why I share it with you. So again, I share things on a genetic level, email blasts in the genetic realm, Dream Academy and nighttime visionary experiences. And then also I share these things overtly here for your conscious daily waking intellect, so that you know you are infinitely sane, you are not alone, and you're definitely not abandoned because whatever, even if the person that you thought was not going to pick you up at the airport, if they're not there, I'm here. Whatever. I've got a flying rainbow lasagna, like rickshaw, jalopy. I'm like, let's get going. Let's do something here. It might not be what you expected, but it's definitely something. So yes, and offer you endless amounts of respect and recognition and encouragement. Because this is an incredibly difficult situation and circumstance to endure. But I think you're getting to the inner recognition that this is not just like a level where you're besieged and you just have to stay alive. You have to stay alive, but now you're at the point in the journey where you have to do more than just stay alive. You're like rocking back and forth, like, just stay alive, and then you're like, no, you know something? I need to do more than just stay alive. I need to really fight back effectively and figure out all the ways to do it. So when I share these tips of the trade with you and you're like, wow, like that's a way I can fight back, planting seeds in your mind, and then take them and run with them, and you get to innovate in your own style, things that are gonna work. The best thing you can do in response to this AI crapola stuff is unpredictability. Dance like a flying rainbow lasagna. Innovate. When you innovate, it is totally not prepared to deal with the unpredictable natures of what's happening. And that's one of the great strengths of who you are and what you can do. So thank you so much. I'll end on that note. I always try to be hugely encouraging, even and positive, even if the things that I share about might be distressing or it might be a difficult life circumstance, please know, like, these are important. Just as it's important to have truthful relationship conversations about how you feel with galactic beings, it's also really important for me to have truthful conversations with you guys about what's going on. It's why I don't just retread my lessons from 10 years ago and present things the way that I did in 2018 or 2019, because this circumstance now requires a different level of response in order for me to be authentic to my integrity and to do the things that I know I'm supposed to be doing. I would do you a great disservice if I didn't speak to you about these things that are going on and then offer you the real solutions and approaches that I'm figuring out. And also, I'm constantly figuring things out. So I'll keep on sending you the cosmic updates, and you keep on sending me cosmic updates too. It's a two-way journey, guys. It's a two-way telepathic communication. So if you figure something out and you're like, oh, that's how you can do this, I want to hear about it. Send it to my telepathic inbox. Yes, so even though this might not be like the most facile, saccharine, easy and fun lesson for you to listen to, it's one of the most essential for me to be able to share. And I'm very, very pleased to just be completely uncensored in my expression towards all of you, because that's the best way for you to have a chance and to be able to act in freedom moving forward. So thank you very much. Thank you for being in my class. Thank you for people that take the time to be able to be here live, and for the people that watch the archive. Thank you for your efforts in your own life to live with integrity and pull out of the nosedive, and for your efforts to positively influence all of the life that is around you, and you make an impact, and the things that you do matter. Thank you very much, everyone.